Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into worn sandals, crossing the threshold of a Pictish farmstead as daylight bleeds into reed light. Imagine your souls crushing frost-heaved moss, that first crunch echoing louder than temple bells in the silence. Let's be real, you'd probably trip over a stray goat's skull and impale yourself on a rusted plow within 5 minutes here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time below. Let's map our scattered constellations. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You cross the moss-scarred threshold, your shadow stretching long and thin toward the clay hearth flames. Their warmth licks your shins as damp wool clings to your shoulders. The house exhales wood smoke, old pine sap, and sheep fat, blackening the rafters overhead. Your grain sack strap slips loose, seeds patter drop like shy rain onto flagstones. Each tiny spill gleams, amber worlds catching fire glow. Historians agree Picts carved their symbols into standing stones. Yet no one's cracked the full meaning. Some whisper they mapped underground springs, marking where water slept beneath the soil. Your heel grinds spilled barley, the sound sharp as bone needles snapping. You kneel, fingertips chasing runaway seeds. They skitter live things fleeing your touch. 3 lodge in a crack, wedged where generations swept dirt towards the door. A chill slithers under your tunic. The hearth's reach fading just 2 paces back. Regions this far north used peat-block insulation. 400 AD engineers rigging wall cavities with moss-stuffed baskets. Drafts still won. Your thumb rubs a flagstone's groove. Not tool cut, centuries of feet wearing soft paths through stone. Women ground grain here, knees pressing this same spot dawn after dawn. Their quernstone waits squat by the hearth, its hollow belly hungry for tomorrow's labor. The wool strap dangles limp, chewed thin by some long-dead sheepdog's pup. You fumble the knot, fibers scratching hangnails raw. Someone carved a salmon into the door jamb, its scales blurred by generations of palms. Historians still argue whether Pictish women fought alongside men. Scratch marks below the salmon suggest children measured their growth here, nicking the wood with kitchen knives. Outside, owl cry or fox yelp. The wind steals the truth of the sound. Middle Ages farmers buried worn plowshares under thresholds, shielding against spirits drawn by iron's song. Your fingers freeze mid-knot. Did Pict's fear metals chime too? A peat brick collapses, sparks fleeing upwards like fireflies in reverse. You flinch, ash settling on your eyelashes. Blink hard, grain dust, and fatigue, turning the room gauzy. That smell, wood smoke braided with stored apples, sweating in wicker baskets. You right the sack, finally grain motes, swirling gold-lit in the air. The spill stays offering for mice or household gods. A clay cup sits by the hearth, half full of water, gone slack and lukewarm. You sip, grit settling on your tongue, its chill shocking your teeth. Fringe theorists claim Picts brewed heather ale by moonlight, straining it through woven nettlecloth. No proof survives, just stained cup marks on festival stones. Your throat tightens, swallowing drink flavored by centuries of clay minerals and sheepfield runoff. Firelight dances on a bronze brooch forgotten on a shelf. 3 spirals chase each other, never touching, never pausing. Folk tales insist these patterns warded off marsh fever when pinned at the throat. Your knuckle brushes cold metal, the chill lingering like unlucky words. Smoke stings, wet wood refusing to burn clean. A cough rattles loose, your eyes water, blurring the flames into sunset ripples on a lock. The hearth's crackle morphs, sounding almost like wet shoes sucking mud. 4 oat straw mattresses line the far wall, each dipped in the center from 1,000 sleeps. Yours sags deepest, facing the door first to receive drafts. Sheepskins piled high, brown and white, like broken cloud cover. Sit, the weight of hours pressing down, shoulders curling towards the heat source. The house carries whispers, better than voices. Chatter from the oat store, weevils gnawing their nightly rations. Mice debating theft in the thatch above. Even the roof beam groans, oak protesting 7 generations of damp. Your palm skims the mattress, finding the dent your hip carved last night. Pictish settlements clustered near bogs, defensible ground, yielding leather tanning acids and metal ore, survival smarts, or geological fluke. You flatten the straw, envy burning low in your gut. Pictish kings rode chariots into battle, Roman records sneered at their naked ferocity. None would see royalty here, just mud-crusted toes, fingernails packed with soil from beet digging. You kick off sandals, soles scrubbing coarse-woven blankets. Wind shoulders the door, its creak rhyming with your spine's complaints. That smell again, rain simmering in far-off hills. A plaid cloak hangs on a branch hook, its colors dimmed by smoke. Gray-blue peat-bog dye soaking wool for 14 days straight. Fabric brushes your forearm rough as hair's tongue. Wrapped tight, the cloak still smells of last week's downpour. Memories of soaked flax drying overhead. The ceiling dripping, time-scented misery. Hearth flames dwindle their light, shrinking into defiant orange knots. 1 peat brick remains, night's frail ambassador against dark. You hurl it on sparks searing upward, blinking like false stars. 25 steps to the oat store. 25 back. Your knees vote no, body slumping deeper into sheepskins. Tomorrow's pre-dawn grind haunts the room, the cornstone already hungry. They say Pictish warriors tattooed their skin with woad, terrifying enemies under moonlight. Your own skin betrays you, chill bumps rising beneath cloak wool, not battle rage. Just autumn's bite sinking deeper. Extend your legs, toes greedy for stray heat pockets. A blister throbs, right heel rubbed raw by new sandals. Pictish shoe leather came from deer, not cows, boiled soft with fish oil. Your toes curl, wincing less at pain than imagined stench. Outside, the first, stars puncture night's fabric. Historians still argue whether Picts navigated by star clusters or salmon rivers. Wind moans through door cracks, your eyelids dipping with each gust. Breathe deep. Wood smoke, sweat, wet dog, clay, dripping thatch, all braiding into tonight's scent profile. Could archaeochemists reconstruct this air centuries later? Your nostrils flare, testing, archiving. Mouse feet scritch above falling barley grains, keeping some tiny belly alive. One scritch pauses, hears your breath, resumes their petty theft. Exhaustion clamps your skull, the mattress rising to meet you. Hearthlight shrinks to a red pupil watching as your spine melts into straw. Wind hums through wall gaps, a hollow song older than language. Pictish parents maybe crooned it, rocking feverish children wrapped in selkie pelts. Your thumb finds the blister, presses, till pain blooms sharp. Not sleep yet, a last glance around the room. Brooch, cup, cloak, cornstone, each object peering back like a drowsy guard. Flames whisper secrets in a lost dialect. Your limbs sink, straw crackling like distant campfires. The last fire coal splits a final hiss, its warmth retreating inch by inch. Under the cloak, your body curls, seeking its own fading heat. Darkness thickens, but it's a darkness earned. Every muscle ached, every spill swept, every flame tended. Pictish nights demanded payment in exhaustion. You drift, door creaks, and mouse steps blurring into lullaby. Cold air sneaks under the cloak. You pull tighter, knees to chest, a human husk wrapped in wool. No stars visible now, just the afterimage of hearthglow haunting your shut eyes. Tomorrow dawn, grain grinding, field labor. Tonight this hollow between fire death and crow cry belongs solely to stillness. The house breathes around you, its wooden bones settling into deeper dark. A dream tugs, water swirling over symbol-carved stones, but you resist. Here now, this straw nest, this woolen cling, this sore-knuckled surrender to night's weight. Wind sings through the keyhole, two notes, high-low, an endless cradle song. Your blistered heel stops throbbing, or you've ceased to feel it. The mattress sags, a well-worn embrace. Mice retreat, sated, their tiny claws silent at last. Somewhere, miles north, waves gnaw a coastline Pictish feet once trod. The hearth exhales one final smoke tendril, bitter and blue, before surrendering to ash. Cold seeps up flagstones, frost's advance guard. You burrow deeper, face pressed into sheep fleece, smelling lanolin, and last, summer's grass. Breath slows, matches the wind's rhythm. 24 heartbeats flutter in oat storage. Your own pulse gentles, rocked by a farmstead's ancient lullaby of chores unfinished and rest barely earned. Darkness absolves all. No sheep counting tonight, just the here, the now. The brittle peace before dawn's blade splits the horizon. Your thoughts unravel threads spun too fine to grasp, dissolving into Pictish soil. Stillness wins. The wool strap's rough imprint still stings your palm grain, now a scattered constellation across worn flagstones. Westward, past the leaning wattle fence, A creek's murmur cuts through evening's first chill. Marsh reeds sway, their gray plumes smudging twilight into something like wet charcoal. Your clay-dunked basket drips, each droplet exploding craters in the creek bank's mud. 3 paces, that's all it took to find water's edge. Pebbles shift underfoot, a slippery welcome from moss-slick stones. You kneel cold, seeping through patched knee leather. Fronds brush your forearm, whispering secrets older than the Roman wall, crumbling 40 leagues south. Fun fact, those conquerors hated these marshes. Their sandals sucked right off in the peat. Talk about wardrobe malfunctions. Wind plucks 5 distinct notes from the reeds, a hollow song torn between air and water. Silver minnows flash, their darting shapes cutting chevrons through peat-stained currents. You count 11, no 12 flickering bodies. Beats counting sheep, though these little guys won't help you sleep. Twilight deepens, water stealing the last amber streaks from the sky. Your fingers skim the surface, a shock of cold. Ripples distort submerged roots, knotted like grandmother's arthritic hands. 16th century, peat cutters swore they found bog butter down there, actual edible butter, buried for centuries. Imagine spreading that on your bannock. Could have ended badly. The basket sinks, slow as moonrise, into lazy currents. Its clay coating dissolves, milky tendrils swirling downstream. Experts think these marshes hid rebel Picts during Viking raids. Clever, if you don't mind sharing your hideout with leeches. Something tugs the basket, a waterweed's persistent embrace. You drag it back, algae green threads clinging to woven willow. 6 plump minnows flop inside, iridescent bellies gleaming. Round 1 to the human, sorry fishfolk. Northern pike stalk these shallows, or so the village elders claim. Not tonight. Just minnows and the sigh of reeds. Historians still argue whether Picts worshipped water spirits, though honestly, who wouldn't bow to something this calm? Frog song erupts, croaks syncopating like drunk drummers. Your elbow brushes a reed stem, its hollow groan echoing louder than intended. Minnows vanish, brief silver panic, dissolving into peat clouds. Some watchman, you are scaring the locals with your clumsy elbows. 14 heartbeats pass before they return, braver or hungrier than before. Your hand dips again, a human lure. Cold bites, numbing knuckles already chapped from dawn's plow work. 3 minnows investigate, tiny noses bumping your calloused fingertips. A splash ruptures the stillness upstream, water voles, or maybe otters. The basket tilts, half its hostages escaping in a shimmering jailbreak. 5 minnows left, though they're looking pretty smug about their friend's great escape. Moonrise bleaches the creek's silver, ripples now etched in mercury light. You lift the basket, water draining through willow-weave gaps. Survivors flick their tails like tiny rude gestures. Off you swim, little ingrates. Damp hem clings to your ankles. A final wet handshake from the marsh. Fireflies ignite, 3 at first, then 12, then too many to count. Their light blinks secret codes, or maybe they're just showing off. Can't blame them, you'd glow too if you could. Thatch smoke finds your nostrils, the hearth tugging you back to shelter. Just before turning, something glints in the shallows. A Roman coin green with corrosion. But Caesar's profile still scowls through the muck. Bribery cash tossed at tribes who preferred peat to palaces. Tough luck, fella. This creek doesn't take imperial currency. Warmth waits behind those moss-furred walls. But for 3 breaths more, you stand motionless, letting cold air steal thoughts like an unfaithful scribe. Marsh never quiets, not truly. Frog chorus fades, water's song returning steady as your own pulse. Reed light flicks its last, the dark swallowing creek coins, and Minarebel's whole. Hoofbeats might be thunder, or just your own tired blood drumming in your ears. Either way, time to leave the water's edge. Mud sucks at your boots, each step a grudging release. Firelight bleeds through the house's single window, a beacon blurred by peat haze. One minnow left behind in the basket, flapping indignantly. Small and silver, a living shard of creek light in the gloom. Should have stayed with your friends, little fool. Now you're coming home as a guest or prisoner, depending on the cookpot's mood. Wind sneaks under your collar, breath stealing sharp as a blade honed on dawn frost. 3 strides from the creek, 4, 5, footfalls echoing like the last heartbeat of a drowned world. The house nears, its outline blurry through smoke-threaded air. That clay hearth glows, promise of warmth, already drying marsh damp from your sleeves. Your shadow stretches east, black ink spilled across frosted grass. Behind the creek resumes its endless argument with the night. A single minnow's gasp, quick as a snapped harp string, tugs your ear. Release or mercy, can't decide which sounds more heroic or which keeps your toes warmer faster. Back you trudge, boots relishing the mud anew. Cold bites harder now, revenge for your brief betrayal. Fingers plunge, freeing the last shivering captive. Tell the others, you whisper, though it's really about salvaging bedtime karma. I'm not the enemy here. Something splashes downstream, otter pike, or imagination, stitching stories from moonlight. Either way, the night feels lighter without hostages. Home beckons, with its crumbling hearth and creaking rafters. Your bedroll waits, stuffed with duck down and dried mint. Binge-watching ASMR before ASMR existed. Muddy footprints tattoo the threshold again. Hope the house spirit likes abstract art. A faint slap echoes from the creek, fish leap, or water volley applause. You smile, door creaking, shut on reed song and moonlit escape plots. Fire's glow envelops you, loosening stiff fingers. The creek's voice softens, now just a hum beneath wind's drone. One last glance through the window, water's surface glittering like 1,000 tossed coins. Sleep comes easier when the marsh breathes in rhythm with you. Creek music fades, replaced by hearth crackle and your own slowing breath. Somewhere beyond the wall, a minnow school celebrates its jailbreak, probably mocking your soggy boots. You almost wish them frostbite before remembering karma's a slippery fish. Better to close your eyes, letting reed songs dissolve into dreams of silver smoke and stubborn little swimmers. Tomorrow night, the creek will whisper again, and you'll probably fall for its wet charms all over. Your plow cutter leans against the hearthstones, its edge pale, with dried earth from dawn's labor. Last week's storm scoured grooves into the blade, each furrow catching firelight like tiny amber rivers. You scrape caked soil with a thumbnail, third harvest season wearing down this iron tongue. Did the Romans leave better tools when they fled? Probably not. They were too busy losing sandals in bogs. 3 drops of seal fat sizzle on the blade, each one dancing before vanishing into thirsty metal. Smoke spirals, thinner than your hearth ash drawings of deer and chariots. Animal grease preserved Pictish blades better than olive oil. Those Mediterranean imports turned rancid by spring thaw. Historians still argue whether seal fat smoke carried prayers or just smelled like village fishmongers' back room. The whetstone waits, a gray slab flecked with mica glitter. You drag the blade across its surface, iron screeching like a tawny owl startled from its roost. Sharpening stones like these were family heirlooms, passed down longer than grudges against rival clans. This one's been kissed by so many generations. Its center dips like a rain-worn grave. Flakes of rust drift downward, dusting your boots with orange snow. Outside, frost gnaws at the wattle walls, each gust carrying promises of dawn's backache. Remember the blacksmith's apprentice last summer. Boasted he could sharpen a scythe blindfolded, lost 3 fingertips before noon. You pause, blade hovering, counting 5 steady breaths. Seal fat smoke thickens, coiling toward the roof hole where stars blink like curious spies. 9th century metalworkers often chanted while tempering blades, though whether to calm nerves or scare off demons remains unclear. Your humming sounds less like sacred rites, more like a drunk badger's love song. The blade's edge reflects firelight now, a crooked smile split by a hairline scar. That notch came from hitting a buried rock last planting moon. Felt like the earth itself spat curses at you. Nowadays you whisper sorry to the soil first. Can't risk angering whatever gods oversee stubborn farmland. Tomorrow's grinding stone squats in the corner, a granite disc grooved by a decade of barley crushing. Its weight sank into your shoulders the moment you inherited it, heavier than grandsire's lecture on proper oat rotation. Experts think these cornstones took 3 days to carve. Your arms argue it took 3 lifetimes. Seal fat pops, sending a droplet skittering across hot iron. You flinch, the blade's tip etching a moonsliver scar into the hearth's rim. Granny's ghost would have whacked your ear for that gods rest her stone-hearted soul. 14 passes on the whetstone, counting under breath like a child memorizing star patterns. The blade sings now, its vibration humming through your wrist bones. Pictish warriors tested edges on falling leaves, slicing oak sprigs clean as geese necks. You settle for paring a callus off your thumb close enough. Smoke tangles in the rafters, smudging the air with fishy incense. That seal fat, jars almost empty, next trip to the coast, means bartering with those one-eyed traders who smell like low tide at midsummer. They claim seal blubber rubs cure baldness, still waiting for proof on Uncle Alpin's shiny dome. Someone, probably Cousin Maeve, left Ogham scratches on the grinding stone's rim, straight lines and slashes that might mean water blessings, or could be tallies from her last ale brewing experiment. Ogham's script found on stones across these hills, though whether it's prayers or grocery lists, nobody's certain anymore. Blade oil soaks into leather wraps, the scent cutting through wood smoke's lazy haze. You prop the plow cutter by the door, its shadow a spear thrust across the packed earth floor. Tomorrow this edge will part soil like Maeve Cleave's gossip at the well. Cold creeps through door cracks, nipping at your ankles like an underfed hound. The grinding stone glowers in dim light, patient as mountains. 24 measures of barley await its teeth come dawn. Dream, sweet old friend, tomorrow we dance again. Seal fat smoke fades, leaving iron-scented stillness. Your bedroll beckons, stuffed with stolen hen feathers and regrets about unfinished chores. Outside, the marsh holds its breath, waiting for blades and stones to resume their ancient argument. Grinding song won't wait for sunrise, but for now, the hearth hums you a lullaby of rust and sparks. Sleep comes swift, dreams full of smoke plumes writing sagas only soil can read. Grandsire's voice rasps like a rusty hinge, his chipped oat bowl glowing cherry red from crabbable resin bubbling over coals. That gummy stink clings to your nostrils, a mix of burnt sugar and wet dog fur, but Pictish menders swore by its grip. Roman soldiers used pine pitch for repairs, though it flaked off after 3 good rains. Amateurs, firelight gnaws at your shadow, fingers working horsehair twine through a bone needle's eye. 2 hand spans of thread left, enough to stitch this torn deerhide sack before moon-high. Great-grandmother's needle emerges from its willow tube, patina smooth as a river stone from 70 winters of mending. Historians still argue whether bone needles doubled as hairpins. Fancy burial finds suggest yes. But try stabbing that through elk leather. Resin dribbles into the bowl's crack, golden veins healing clay like scar tissue. Grandsire blows gently, his breath fluttering white whiskers, sealing the mend before river water could seep through again. Did you know Celtic bards sometimes chewed crabbable gum to soothe throats? Tastes like sour tree blood, but beats swallowing peat smoke during epic beard poems. Your needle bites deerhide, pulling twine tight with teeth-gritting tugs. Horsehair strands prickle your palm rough as Boer clan warriors' handshakes. Elders used to soak threads in beeswax and barley beer, kept knots from slipping during wet harvest moons. Someone should have told Cousin Dougal. His leaky grain sack earned him a moon of crochet duty. Flames spit, resin sparks, flecks stinging your wrist like vengeful midges. Grandsire scowls, his knuckles tightening around the bowl. 9th century Picts often traded resin lumps for salt weight for weight, though tricky traders stuffed cores with mud. His chipped bowl survived 17 winters, longer than 2 wives. And that ill-fated Roman sword purchase, stitching feels like dragging a boulder uphill, each puncture requiring shoulder leverage. Leather resists, stubborn as Graham's opinions on Southfield barley spacing. Archaeologists found similar repair kits in Brock ruins, complete with sinew scraps and antler awls. Wonder if those ancients also muttered curses when needles snapped. Resin smoke ghosts toward the roof hole, mingling with earlier seal fat stink, until the air tastes like a fisherman's boot. You knot the final stitch, the sack lips puckering like Granny's kiss face after dandelion wine. Grandsire nods approval, his bowl cooling to dull amber now, a liquid bandage hardening under night's watch. He reaches into his fleece, producing 2 hazelnuts roasted in hearth ash. Old ways taught that shared nuts sealed pacts better than oath-swearing on swords. Something about squirrels never breaking promises. You crack yours, the colonel dusting his beard like tiny snowflakes. Rain whispers against the thatch, its rhythm syncing with twine-twisting fingers. Outside, peat bog, acids eat through leather twice as fast. Yet another reason to thank that grumpy coastal trader for deer hides. Quirky fact, some Highland menders believed stitching under moonlight made seams invisible to rats. Still testing that theory with mixed results. Firelight reveals Grandsire's hands, scar lattice telling tales of blade slip vengeance and fishing net wars. His thumbnail traces the mended bowl, smooth enough for barley gruel tomorrow. Resin's truth comes at dawn, he mutters, Pictish proverb, or maybe just acid reflux talking. Thread leftovers coil into a knot ball, tomorrow's nest lining for that thrush with the crooked beak. Waste nothing, not even curses spat at tangled twine. Your needle retreats into its willow sheath, safe, until next rip or tear or drunken spear toss mishap. Grandsires snores harmonize with wind songs through wall gaps, a raspy lullaby for menders and mended. Your eyelids sag, vision blurring deer hide stitches into marching ant columns. Sleep comes sticky and slow, dreams smelling of crabbable graves and horsehair hammocks. Rain drums harder now, testing resin's grip like a thieving tide. The bowl holds silent as oath-bound stones. Somewhere west, a fox yips, its cry swallowed by sodden hills. You drift deeper, stitches holding, while night's needle mends what daylight frayed. Thin bleats pierce your crusted eyelids. The wolf-scarred ram stomps frozen ground beyond wattle walls. Your breath plumes sharp, night air gnawing throat flesh raw as butchered mutton. 9th century shepherds wore fleece-lined boots. Romans called them udons. But your souls feel like ice-sheathed stone. Elder stars glare through cloud slits, their cracked patterns older than Pictish pasture songs. You count ribs beneath coarse wool fingers, probing each bony arch like a bard plucking rotten lyre strings. Lamb number 3 wheezes, its flank scarred from owl talons last moon cycle. Some druids whispered sickly lambs carried messages from underworld gods' nonsense. Unless you enjoy deciphering phlegmy coughs, frost crunches underfoot, the ram's yellowed teeth bared at your approach. His left ear notched from a wolf's kiss, 8 winters guarding this flock grumpier than grandsire denying second honey rations. Historians still argue whether Picts gelded rams, or just let them duel. Find me a sane soul wrestling that horned demon with shears. You squat beside lamb 7, knuckling clotted dung from its tail. Your thumb finds a fresh wolf bite puncture, heat pulsing like a second heartbeat under matted wool. Roman texts mention salves made from bear fat and yarrow grandsire, swears by piss and spiderwebs. Both stink worse than midden pits in high summer. Moonlight silvers the ram's scar tissue ridges etched like Ogham script warnings. 3 ewes huddle together, steam rising from their nostrils in ragged clouds. 1 kicks weakly, hoof scuffing a rhythm dull, as Graham's spoon scraping burnt porridge. Did you know Orkney shepherds used seaweed to fatten flocks? Smells like a whale's rotting grin, but lambs devoured it, probably why their wool sheds salt crystals come spring. Your frost-numbed fingers fumble the salve jar, grease congealed to waxy sludge. You dig a glob scent of fermented bog myrtle stinging your eyes, and smear it on the bite. Lamb 3 sneezes violently, nostrils flaring like tiny bellows. Ancient livestock guardians buried stillborn calves under enclosures, warding magic. Or maybe just lazy corpse disposal. The ram rams the fence, oak posts shuddering under his rage. 3 strikes, your molars clacking with each impact. Celtic tales claim rams dreamt battle strategies for chieftains. Doubt any warlord survived tactical advice involving head-butting birch trees. You crouch counting heartbeats through fleece, 19 flutters before the next wheeze. Lamb 7's ribs feel like hazel saplings bending under gales. Iron Age shepherds often penned flocks in stone brocks for safety, nostril freezing. But cheaper than replacing lambs eaten by shadow biters. A distant howl ribbons the night, its echo fraying into silence against fir-dark hills. Your nape hairs prickle, not unlike when cousin Dougal suggested improving the mead with fermented turnips. The ram stamps again, hooves churning frost into mud-flecked slush. Lamb 5 bolts upright, legs splayed like a poorly made stool before collapsing sideways. You stroke its crown, wool coarse as dried river reeds. Some mad Gaulish tribes dyed lamb's blue for sacrifices. Try explaining that to Roman tax collectors sniffing around for wool tariffs. Your toes scream inside soaked boots, pulse throbbing where the frostbit pinky meets leather. Mooncast shadows turn gorse bushes into crouching wolves, the wind hissing through thorns like 100 unfed infants. You suck air through chapped lips, counting lamb breaths until the horizon pales. Dew glistens on the ram's horns, liquid moonlight dripping onto trampled dung. Dawn's first chill gnaws your kneecaps, birds still mute in their ice-locked nests. 3 more coughs, 14 wheezes, the endless arithmetic of survival beneath indifferent stars. One ewe butts your elbow, demanding scratches behind lichen-crusted ears. Her breath smells of rotten apples and childhood nicknames you'd rather forget. 14th century Scots tied red yarn to lamb's ears, warding off elf shot. But Picts relied on vigilance, and enough spears to impale a small bear. The ram finally stills, his obsidian eyes reflecting your hunched silhouette. A frozen truce settles, predators retreated, flock intact, salve hardening into lumpy armor on Lamb 7's wound. You exhale slow, your ribs aching with the effort, counting dawn notches on the eastern horizon, until watch duty bleeds into milking chores. The hearth flames lick eelskins stretched taut on hazel rods, 7 slippery shapes skewered like accusing fingers toward the smoke-blackened rafters. Their eyes have turned milky, gazing blind at cobwebs swaying in the draught, each body curring into leathery scrolls of winter protein. Eel preservation methods paralleled Roman garum production, minus the stomach-turning fish gut fermentation tanks. Thank every Pictish deity for small mercies. Brine tracks crack between your knuckles, salt carving white lines into supple-burned skin. A sting wound throbs near your thumb webbing, that last escape artist's teeth finding purchase before the killing stone fell. Howls still bite at your nape, wolf voices, or wind through wall cracks. Memory refuses to settle. Old net menders claimed wrapping eelskins around wounds sped healing quicker than spiderweb poultices, though grandsire called it drowning man's nonsense. You peel a translucent scrap, still damp, and press it to the inflamed bite. Firelight gnaws at rope twists of smoke, oily wisps, unspooling toward the roof hole. Moon casts slatted patterns through wicker shutters, each shadow a minnow darting across clay jars stacked knee-high. Historians still argue whether Picts actively farmed eels or just harvested migratory runs. Try asking the silver-bellied bastards thrashing through last night's traps. Your gutting knife lies nearby, its blade nicked from frantic stabs through squirming coils. 2 shadows twitch, hunger cramps disguised as movement. You rub goose fat onto dried blisters, the sting wound pulsing under its eelskin bandage. 9th century traders prized smoked eel above salted herring, higher value per ounce than bog iron, though no merchant ever braved these marshes during wolf moon season. Smoked oil drips onto coals, a hiss like whispers trapped in river reeds. Your pinky traces a gash on the 7th eel, a jagged tear from rock to gills. Carnivore bite, most likely, maybe an otter testing its fortune. Ancient texts mention eels slithering overland between locks, legends claiming they sought lost lovers beneath peat bogs. No creature that's slick deserves romance. A wobbly stool awaits, oak legs uneven from woodworm feasts, squeaking like Graham's last sucking pig at slaughter time. Flames whisper lullabies, their heat softening the leather straps on your boots. 3 jars of rendered seal fat glisten nearby, tomorrow's bread-dipping feast. If mold hasn't cheated you again, you poke fire log embers, sparking orange motes that die midair. Thatch overhead creaks, settling like a roomy elder shifting bones on a straw pallet. The sting wound cools under its silvery bandage, eelskin tightening as it dries. Romans documented Breton tribes using eel leather for arrow quivers, tested against rain and barbarian spearheads. Your own quiver wears threadbare, perhaps worth sacrificing one skin after the thaw. Layers of brine itch, salt glue binding tunic to spine sweat. Tonight's haul remains meager, only 7, where last winter's traps yielded 12. Hunger chews whole through rib meat, a persistent thief stealing sleep. The last eel's tail curls upward, as if pointing to some unseen insult in the rafters. You flick its desiccated flesh, vacant eye sockets, mocking mortal efforts. Medb of the marshes once swore eelskins could silence creaking doors, rubbed with crow fat. But her ghost never stayed long enough for a proof demonstration. Smoke stings weary eyes, blurring the room into charcoal smudges, each breath tinged with ash. A sticky residue clings between fingers, eel slime transmuted into resinous film. Bog myrtle soap awaits, hard as shale beside the wash pail, useless until heated. Your knife hand trembles, pulse skittering under thin scar tissue from last year's flensing mishap. 3 failed attempts to clean under nails, now just smearing grayish gunk whiter. Sheep fat candles gutter, wick ends drowning in their own wax. Efficiency sacrificed for flickering atmosphere. 1 eelskin stiffens drum-taut between its skewers, tapping like a bored child's knuckle on cedar wood when the wind shifts. You pluck the rod free, angling it toward warmth without scorching the precious hide. Blisters weep, rage-welt rising where brine met split skin. The rushlight gutters, blue flame, tongues darting at reeds like starving minnows. Wild chervil waits crushed in a moss-lined bowl. But grinding, it requires energy your arms no longer possess. Fire reflects off the salve pot's curved belly, distorting your face into a hollow-cheeked wraith. 7 eelskins, their iridescent scales muted by smoke and necessity, promise future stews if the frost spares them rot. You catch yourself counting their twisted forms 34 times until eyelids scrape like gravel under boot heels. Sleep drags claws through your thoughts, weighted by peat-soaked wool and borrowed daylight hours. Marsh winds whip through roof thatch gaps, howling like an army of wronged shadows. Did you know Anglesey tribes navigated bog mists using eel gut ropes as guidelines? 1 snap, and you became fenland fertilizer. Your stool creaks protest, joints groaning about damp and poor craftsmanship. The sting wound numbs skin, tightening pleasantly under its silver sheath. Rush pith's milky sap oozes over your knuckle, cool balm sealing eel blood and salt into another scar story. Dawn licks frost from the flax stalks, their dew-rotted husks peeling like blistered skin. You kneel on reed mats gone stiff overnight, each twist-strip movement snapping plant sinews with a sound like burning deer sinew. Flax processing stations dotted Roman Gaul's countryside, but Pictish thread spinners needed no marble vats or slave labor. Your spindle pirouettes, its beetle armor gleam catching weak light through smoke hole gaps. 9 stone weights hang from the warp threads, granite eggs tugging fiber bundles earthward. Yesterday's rain seeps through turf, puddling under kneecaps long past, caring about damp's cold kiss. Historians still argue whether flax was cultivated in Pictland or foraged wild. Try persuading these stubborn stalks which version rings true. A splinter jabs your palm, lodged where eel slime softened calluses last night. Ghost threads whisper through fingers, semi-transparent lines coiling on a spindle whorl carved from a sheep's thigh bone. You recall bog-preserved cloaks found in Jutland marshes, their diamond patterns mimicking salmon scales, though this winter demands function over finery. Each twist tightens fibers into submission, plant veins becoming puppet strings for shivering hands. 3 rock weights shift, gravel grinding like Dame Iona's teeth during her infamous butter sermon. Gray yarn blooms across the wooden frame, a spider-frail web promising cloaks you might not live to weave. Some claim spinning flax under a waxing moon strengthens thread, though grandsire called it hogwash for moon-calved idiots. The weight stones sway, their shadows merging like beetles, mating on longhouse walls. Wind sneaks through willow-woven shutters, flax strands shivering, as if sensing incoming sleet. Your thumb probes a crack in the spindle whorl, lappies grit clinging to resin-smeared fissures. Norse traders once bartered amber spindle rings, useless here, where tools must endure mud and minor curses. Flax fibers catch under ragged nails, tearing half-moon rips across thread nests. 9 rocks now, 10 next harvest, if peatworms spare the storage sacks. Old ballads claim mischievous sprites steal unguarded spindles, turning them into fishing rods for catching frog ghosts. Palm flames sting where raw thread saws grooves, lifeblood welling beside new splinters. Leather workers used urine for softening hides. Imagine that stench. Yet flax redding pits smelled fouler than 6-week-dead bog cattle. The spindle wobbles, a drunken dancer, betraying fatigue's creeping fingers. You bite a knuckle metal tang of blood, and yesterday's brine ghosting your tongue. Twilight crouches in corners, long shadows swallowing the rockweight's sway. Tomorrow's frost will starve weakling stalks, but you need this ghost thread for mending the wolf-chewed thrall's cloak. Spinsters whispered that flax could bind wandering souls to objects, an open debate between wishful thinkers and those who'd seen things move at night. Firewood cracks, answering your unanswered questions with nihilist glee. A slub snags the thread, fiber cluster, resisting smooth-spun fate. Horse-amber necklaces may dazzle Norse envoys, yet flax cloaks stand between clan members and grave dirt. You spit on fingertips, re-rolling fibers, as reeds mutter against damp stones. Rock weights clack like raven beaks on carrion, countersunk rhythms, measuring dusk's decay. Someone should invent gloves for this, perhaps next life, where polar bear pelts drape every calloused paw. Twist-strip motions blur into muscle memory, sinews popping like green willow wands under stress. Blue blooms once stained Pictish warriors before battle woad vats bubbling beside half-strung looms. Raw thread sways, pale as hagfish skin, weight stones pulling like drowned men's anchors. The spindle whorl warms, bone bleeding residual sheep heat into work raw palms. Storm winds chorus through rafters, making reed mat fibers shiver alongside uncarded flax. Your nape hair prickles sharp as the day you found Midir's corpse tangled in fishing nets. 9, 10, 11 twist-strip cycles, hand cramps blurring tallies, but desperation keeping tempo. Archaeology proves flax softened with bog butter then again. What doesn't butter improve, except maybe sword wounds? Spindle pirouettes falter, limp threads tangling into cobweb chaos. Raindrops spit through smoke holes, striking your neck like frozen midge bites. Historians still argue whether flax fibers held ritual meanings, secret prayers spun into cloak hems before battles. You whisper half-remembered hymns, threads tightening despite clumsy fingers and owl-light blindness. Shadows thicken to peat-bog density. The spindles whorl, now a moon-smeared glowworm in dark silt. 9 rock weights hang suspended, gravity's teeth gnawing at fibers spun too weak for April sleet. Wind strangles chimney smoke, pushing wood ash stench into linen tunic, folds already sour with old sweat. Field mice scurry behind clay jars, their scratching sinking with twist-strip rhythms, nature's metronome mocking human labor. Dawn-starved wood burns low, its ember glow revealing maybe 12 arm spans of usable thread. Spinning flax feels akin to weaving mist, one breath from dissolving all progress into herbal tea steam. Ice crusts clamshell water bowls, rim patterns reflecting how arthritic fingers might look come winter's end. The spindle drops, clattering like Graham's arthritic kneecaps on flagstones, bone whorl chipping further against packed earth floor. Thread skeins coil like adder babies in baskets, soft killers waiting for the drop into warp beams. Some tribes buried spindle whorls with women warriors, honoring weavers as navigators between life tapestry and death fog. You press flax-shredded thumbs to eyelids, blotting out stinging smoke and work song headaches. If thread broke with each lie, told your cloak would strand naked before midwinter feasts. You slump against the mare's warm barrel cheek, pressed to ribs rising like bread dough under wool blankets. Her swollen flank radiates heat, pulse thumps sinking with your temples, ache from hours hunched over flax hackles. Stable darkness swallows everything except cricket thrum through reed thatch. and that erratic drumbeat against your ear. Foal kicks echo storage jars, thumps deep as peat diggers' spades, striking buried menhirs. Picts relied on horses for travel and war, though tonight's battle involves keeping a two-legged stool from splintering under your weight. The mare grinds her molars, meal chaff puffing sour with each sigh. You palm her belly, counting kicks between owl hoots from the boundary woods. 17, 18, 19. Hoof nudges strong enough to crack hazelnut shells. Birthing charms carved into stall beams, glint crude horse heads etched by someone who'd clearly never seen one properly. A fly crawls up your neck, its buzz mimicking grandsires snore during spring equinox feasts. Hot breath gusts your hair, the mare's muzzle nudging your shoulder like a child begging for stolen honeycomb. Your knee pops upright, stitch scabs tearing as blood rushes back into numb limbs. Stable loam squelches beneath worn boots smelling of ammonia and crushed wild garlic. Some tribes fed mares seaweed to prevent moontide colic, a trick Norse traders swore by, though good luck finding kelp this far inland. You need her swollen udder, waxy teats already leaking beads of colostrum. Stickiness gums your fingers, shiny as fresh tree resin in torchlight. The mare leans into your touch, nostrils flaring, when the foal kicks her diaphragm. Historians still argue whether Pictish horses carried warriors into battle or just hauled turnips. Try explaining tactical turnips to a restless pregnant mare. A broom handle cracks your shin, the darkness laughing at your mistimed shuffle sideways. Her tail swats your face, stiff hairs smelling of dung heap and gale wind. You catch the rhythm, 3 swishes per full thump, an ancient lullaby older than woad tattoos or standing stones. Your spine screams against worn wood, each splinter a tiny rebellion against bad posture. Mare musk saturates wool sleeves, a perfume no bard ever praised, unless they were paid in fermented mare's milk. Full rolls ripple her hide, muscle shudders like salmon, fighting upstream through your palms. She stamps, iron shoes sparking faint blue against compacted soil chips of flint, buried centuries ago by glacier teeth. Dew seeps through roof gaps, icy drops, tattooing your scalp between thatch-weave gaps. Stable boys once buried horse placenta under doorsteps for luck. Imagine stepping over that each morning with breakfast groats in hand. The stool groans, one leg sinking into dung mush as the mare shifts her weight. Iron-shod hooves scrape stone, sparks briefly illuminating the fly-specked hay rack above. You count heartbeats against her ribs, slow as tide pulling back from dune grass shores. Some believed mares birthed easier under new moon darkness, fewer prying eyes from restless spirits. Cricket song swells its vibration, humming through the stool into your tailbone. She snorts, a wet sound like pebbles dropped in bog wells. You trace stretch marks along her belly, ridged scars glowing silver where moonlight licks through roof holes. The foal jabs, sharp as Middir's elbow during last winter's wrestling bout by frozen loch shores. Warmth soaks your thigh, a trickle of birthing fluid seeping into already stiff breeches. Mare sweat glues your tunic sleeve to her flank, a second skin you'll peel free at dawn. Wind winds through wall cracks, flute-sharp notes dancing with scent of frost-nipped ferns. Your eyelids sag, hoarse breath, rhythm nearly drowning out the thrum inside her womb. Full spine ridges roll under your palm, vertebrae counting themselves like ritual beads before prayer time. Stable cats yowl outside, fur standing up as they sense blood scent edging closer. Roman cavalry manuals prescribed songs for nervous war horses. Sadly, none seem fitting for this sodden midnight vigil. The mare paws straw, nest-building instinct kicking in despite stone flooring. You murmur nonsense, calf-petting phrases your sister crooned before fever stole her voice forever. A contraction tenses her belly, steel cable tightness, lasting 30 slow heartbeats before slackening. Historians still argue whether Picts stabled horses inside ringforts. Tonight's draft through your tunic says they preferred convenient breezes over common sense. She lipples your hair, seeking salt in unwashed braids, while your numb legs beg for mercy. Full nose presses against her side bulge, appearing, then vanishing like shoreline waves, retreating. Moonlight glints on a chewed wood manger, tooth marks mapping equine boredom across oat-stained oak. Birch twigs crackle underfoot, placed to ward off night hags who supposedly stole colts' first breaths. Your hip pops, rising too fast as another contraction rocks the mare's frame. She half rears, hooves clipping your shoulder, before settling with a groan that shakes rafters. Rowan berries ferment nearby, their sour stench mixing with musk and impending blood. Grooms once tied red yarn to tails to distract evil sprites, though your only red thread currently patches your left boot sole. Heat flares between her hind legs, steam rising as birthing fluids hit cold, packed earth. The foal crowns, velvet nose shining slick white under weak starlight, bleeding through smoke holes. You brace, gripping slippery ankles as the mare heaves her scream-shredding night into raven feather fragments. The mud sucks your boots, that same sticky whisper as calf birth fluids clinging to straw moments ago. Dawn leaks gray through drizzle its light, snagging on peat smoke, drifting from unmortared wall gaps. Your finger traces a root crack near the threshold, crumbled clay dusting calluses already raw from full delivering grip. Historians mutter about Pictish roundhouses needing constant repair. They never mention how night rain turns packed earth floors into bog soup. Mare sweat still glues your tunic to spine. Now morning damp adds its own clammy hug. You kneel, palms scraping moss fur from wattle weave under crumbling daub. 5, 6, 7 gap-toothed holes stare back, their edges crumbling like stale barley bread. Grandsire swore ash-mixed clay lasted longest if you could ignore the grit grinding between molars in every stew. The midden ditch offers up reeds, their stems bent and waterlogged from last night's downpour. 3 fistfuls of river mud wait beside your knee, stinking of frog spawn and dead willow leaves. You knead them together, squelch echoing the mare's birthing groans, now fading in memory. Modern thatchers still debate whether urine-tempered daub better than bog iron water. Tonight's brew won't win scholarly praise. Damp creeps up your knees, a familiar ache, as you stuff mud-thick reeds into wall wounds. The mix oozes cold and slick as eel guts between fingers. A chuckle escapes, yesterday's urgent foaling, replaced by today's war against drips. Your thumb rams clay into a particularly stubborn crack. It gulps the offering like a throat-starved fledgling. West wall weeps worst, lichen beards glistening, where rafters sag under rotting thatch. You count leaks by their puddle songs, a discordant choir chanting fix me, fix me, fix me. Toadflax roots tangle through gaps, nature's own mortar failing spectacularly. Some clanfolk buried horse skulls under thresholds to ward off damp spirits. Yours just collects rust-colored seepage. Clay cakes under nails, gray-brown crescents mirroring roof holes above. You hum a thatcher's tune, the one about swallows stitching nests under eaves. A drip scores your temple, its chill path mimicking the now stalled full musk sweat. 11 mud plugs squelch in place, their surfaces puckering as they dry unevenly. Roman soldiers admired Pictish roundhouse insulation, never while kneeling in a puddle patching walls barehanded. Frost-cracked daub grumbles under your palm hole sections, flaking off like dead skin. The scent of old rain rises, mildew and wet dog fur trapped in waddling for decades. You smear fresh mud over a fist-sized breach, a nursery rhyme about drowning mice escaping your lips. 3 generations of repairs layer these walls, grandfather's fistprints fossilized beside yours. Wind gnaws through your patchwork, testing each plug with needle-toothed gusts. Your pinky finds a hidden hollow, rough as the orphaned lamb's tongue licking salt off your palm. Reed mud slops into the void, sealing mouse bones and owl pellets inside history. Farriers once claimed daub mixed with mare's milk repelled rats, a fact your current rodent tenants loudly protest. Sunrise bleeds honey gold through eastward gaps, glazing your mud-crusted knuckles in false warmth. 7 more cracks wait, their shadows stretching longer as dawn firms the earth. You swipe hair from your eyes, smearing clay across your brow like warrior paint. Laughter bubbles, high and wild, as a fox cub's first pounce, before dissolving into a yawn wide enough to swallow the morning whole. The last handful of mud drops plop into a gap shaped like Midir's missing front tooth. You press until clay oozes between fingers, a cool kiss to blisters raised by last night's birthing rope. Woodshed moss might hide here, green velvet over summer-dried repairs, if the rain gods spare you. Swallows swoop, their shadows stitching seams across your freshly patched battlefield. Their nest-building trills weave with your fading hum. The song's end credits rolling on another night's mending. Mud stiffens on your hands, cracking like ancient paint as you flex stiff fingers. Wind carries peat smoke and yeast sour, bread from the hearth inside, proof some leaks stay worth plugging. Embers cough orange sparks, their glow lapping at knucklebone dice strewn across trampled rushes. You roll an owl-patterned odd, its hollow eye socket winking like grandsire's lost amber bead. Sour whey steams in your lap, its tang clawing your throat worse than foxbane tea. Historians catalog thousands of Roman gaming bones, your sets, hair-marked even stays stubbornly buried under ash. 3 throws land like lame goslings, each tumble scraping blisters from last night's birthing rope grip. Your thumb rubs the smallest die, a ram's knuckle smoothed by generations of worried fingers. Experts found sheep bones drilled with ritual marks under Edinburgh's old brewery, whether they fueled luck or bladdered boasts. None confessed under sober dawns. The fire whispers a log collapsing into glowing vertebrae. You sketch tomorrow's barley plots in spilled malt, 1 grain per acre, marked by fingernail dents. Snot green whey sloshes a drip, branding your thigh through worn wool. Workers buried dice with Viking chieftains to cheat deaths. Boredom, your cellar-dwelling ancestors, clearly skimped on grave goods. Moonlight slithers through smoke hole gaps, frosting dice edges silver. 13 tosses. Owl wins 7, hare claims 6. You swipe sweat from your lip tasting salt, and hearth grime better, suited to wall mud. Historians still argue whether bone games taught battle tactics, easier than admitting warlords wasted winters gambling for rusty buckles. Emberglow outlines etchings on the oldest die spirals like river eddies frozen mid-turn. Your pinky traces their paths, same idle motion as spinning grandsires whorl during sheep-counting tales. Dwarfmen supposedly carved the first dice from giants' teeth, a myth your crooked set disproves daily. Whey's scum coats your tongue, you swallow hard like coaxing medicine down the sick ram. The final roll clatters owls and hares, tangling in rushes. Mouse bones peep from wall cracks, they're better at hiding than these damned dice. Roman centurions, allegedly diced for Christ's robes, losers got splinters. Winners got crucifixion duty. Nobody won. Fire shrinks to pulsating coal hearts, shadows swallowing hair-marked bones whole. You sip lukewarm whey, its curds clinging like bog cotton to a ewe's backside. Tomorrow's malt trail wavers, 2 fields cross-hatched 3, marked for fallow grazing. Some clan mothers sewed dice into children's hems against night terrors. Yours just lure mice to chew your hempen socks. Midnight wind rattles the door hide, its icy fingers stealing warmth from your nape. Dice migrate to your pouch, their owl eyes still judging through greased leather. You smudge field lines, a snail trail of malt leading to tonight's tally scratched in ash. Barrow diggers found dice clutched in skeletal hands, outnumbered 6 to 1 by empty ale jugs nearby. The last ember dims your whey cup, holds only a film of grudges. blistered fingers stiffen, raising tomorrow's field map feels like hefting a granite cornerstone. Dawn's first bird croaks outside. The scarred ram stamps a rhythm only frost understands. Your tally looks half hopeful. 3 plots promise grain, 7 gamble against rain slaughter. Cold gnaws through your souls. You rock heel to toe like grandsire's missing cradle. Moon abandons the smoke-hole darkness, folds over malt-sketched plans like a shroud. Dice press against your hip, their owl hair debate muted by 3 yawns and a rattling sigh. Mare's heartbeat thumps through the wall steady as waves, counting stolen pebbles from shore. Your lids droop. The hearth ash tally blurs into a gray ghost road leading nowhere urgent. Tomorrow's first chore swims into focus. Gate hinges screaming for goose grease, and blasphemy weighs aftertaste, haunts your teeth, a sour reminder that dawn arrives regardless of dice prophecies. Stiff bones creak upward your shadow, merging with the wolf-chewed timber's darkness. The ram's final snort echoes, a snuffing candle surrendering to night's blue embrace. By the dead hearth, malt grain mocks tomorrow's labor with its neat little lines and wobbling arrows. One last itch flares between your shoulders, right where mare sweat glued wool to skin for 9 sticky hours. You scratch raw, a chalkstone screech loud enough to startle spiders from their smoke venom naps. Rushes crunch underfoot, their dry complaints, following you toward straw mattress oblivion. Mouse bones retreat, their whispers fading behind 3rd-generation mud plugs. Your palm cups the dice pouch, owl and hare dreaming, whatever bone animals dream under milk-starred skies. Fatigue wraps you thicker than middenreek, and twice as relentless. Knees buckle into straw, its scent still holding summer's ghost despite winter's freeze. Goats will trample those malt-sketched plots by dawn, but for now, the tally lies unchallenged in cooling ash. Wind hums through wall gaps, a familiar lullaby even owls yawn through. Your fist curls around the petty hate way cup, woodgrain ridges, imprinting your calloused lifeline. Frost sketches ferns on the threshold, each crystal branch, denying your dice's harvest prophecies outright. Darkness wins its tide, swallowing hearth, dice, field plans, and your grit-crusted eyelashes whole. Somewhere beyond hazel groves, a vixen screams at the injustice of unguarded hen coops. Your marrow-heavy limbs surrender, the ram's dawn rage already coiled tight in tomorrow's clenched fist. Frost gnaws through your eyelids, waking you mid-snore, with the subtlety of a badger, rooting through clay pots. Moonlight leaks through stable cracks, a sickly glow outlining the chore basket's guilt-tripping silhouette. Your breath fogs the air, each puff, mirroring the plow-ox's, grumbles 3 walls over. Muscles scream like boiled nettles, last night's dice daunting, replaced by soil's siren call. You fumble for sheepskin mittens, finding only a rat-chewed hole where thumbs should flee the cold. Historians confirm Pictish farmers used manure-centered compost systems, a fact your frost-bitten toes appreciate as you shuffle toward seedbeds. Knee meets a forgotten grindstone, pain blooms purple behind your clenched teeth. Loam squelches under bare soles. Your rushed exit, having sacrificed footwear for speed. 3 beech rows stretch northward, their furrows half swallowed by ice-crusted dirt. You squint moonlights sting worse than grandsire's cider breath at dawn. Thumbs plunge earthward, knuckles scraping pebbles slick as whale teeth. The topsoil resists, crusted over like week-old bannock left near embers. Brittle sprout shells crack beneath your probing, secrets whispered through frozen membranes. Medieval texts swear moon phases sway root growth. Tonight's waning crescent supposedly favors turnip spite over cooperation. Darkness hides the 5th finger's split nail. You feel the wet pulse instead. Cold numbs the sting, a small mercy, while groping for pulse-thick beet germs below. 1, 2, 3 bulb shapes throb against your palm, dimpled globes, huddled like suckling piglets. Experts dug up Roman seed vaults, sealed with lead curses against slugs, though your biggest threats remain frost and inept thumbs. Mud oozes between fingers, its suck-and-pull rhythm mimicking the creek's summer gossip. A worm brushes your pinky, frigid and sluggish as a drunken guardsman on solstice night. You let it flee, its wriggle path mapping escape routes you envy hourly. Historians still argue whether ancient Britons prized fertilization over ritual. Try telling that to your back as you mimic a mole in midwinter. Sudden movement. A vole erupts from leaf mold like a hairy acorn cursed by local spirits. Your heart pounds louder than mares kick dance during fly seasons. Left thumb finds a split beet seed, its innards mushier than oversteeped bog myrtle tea. Crouch shuffle westward, knee-deep in loamy betrayal. With each step, the 12th bed yields rock-hard soil. Your nail beds weep crimson onto grudging dirt. 4 sprout tips tease your calluses, thread-fine roots tickling like spiderling marches. Folk tales claim singing to seedlings wards off mildew, but your croaked lullaby sounds more like a strangled weasel. Moon ducks behind clouds, plunging your world into blindness, seasoned with cheap melodrama. Hands become your eyes, each fissure, and root hair whispering topography into your mud-caked skin. Deep earth radiates stored warmth, faint as a dying candle under a wool blanket. Mist descends its wet claws, spiderwebbing through your braids. You exhume a pebble, its frost-sheathed curves polished smoother than a chieftain's lie. Night unspools slow as honey from a cracked jar, each minute measured in finger numbness and hip creaks. 2 root clusters throb warmer than their neighbors, sap blood simmering beneath papery skin. Your joints protest the stoop, vertebrae popping like green wood in a greedy fire. Farm manuals from Rome praised scheduled planting. Your ancestors clearly translated them as poke stuff underground and swear at rain. Teeth chatter Morse code, a staccato rhythm even the dozing hens ignore. Right palm discovers catastrophe, a nest of chewed sprouts massacred by leather-jawed slugs. You hiss Gaelic curses unfit for daylight, words that curdle the herbwife's goat milk stores. Dawn's first bruise-colored light smudges the eastern tree line. Frozen thumbprints scar the soil where viable seeds still dreamt of spring. You retreat, leaving night's blind archaeology to the crow's gossip and rising winds. Knees crack upright, your spine unfolding like a rusted knife pulled from a battlefield corpse. Ice jewels glint on your hem each step toward the hearth house tinkles mockery. Seed silt cakes your wrists, black delta maps plotting tomorrow's failures. One beat germ pulses behind your navel, an empathetic echo from the dark work now abandoned. Mare nickers as you pass, her breath steaming judgment through the stable wall. You flash dirt-crusted palms, a farmer's braille recounting tonight's fragile hopes. The threshold looms, its moss-furred stones eager to trip weary feet. Fireless hearth gapes, cold ashes outlining last night's dice where ambition met reality. Your shadow stretches long and thin, a weary scribe's quill scratching dawn's ledger with frostbitten toes. Somewhere beneath the midden, those massacred beat souls compost into next year's grudging bounty. Salt crunches underfoot as you kneel beside the fish basket, its reek greeting you like a drunk uncle at solstice feast. 7 herring glisten under dawn's thin light, their scales a mosaic of stolen moonlight and stubborn life. Your blade finds the first belly seam, a silver zipper hiding gelatinous secrets within. Historians confirm barrel salting, preserved Pictish winter stocks, though your nose argues it also preserved misery for modern nostrils. Fish guts slop into the clay bowl, gray ropes of intestine coiling like spiteful earthworms. Brine stings the scrape on your knuckle, a gift from yesterday's quarrel with the plowshare. You peel back skin from muscle, the tissue parting slicker than a liar's promises. Some Nordic traders prized herring eyes as love charms, your current harvest destined for gull food, not romance. Bones snap clean as icicles, vertebrae piling up like tiny ivory beads. Left thumb slips, gills rake your palm with their blood-tinged teeth. The midden pit yawns 10 paces north, its edges crusted with yesterday's crabshell offerings. Historians still argue whether fish butchery was women's work across all northern tribes. Try explaining gender labor theories to these blistered hands. Basket weave bites your shins as you rise, legs tingling from crouch lock. Fish heads stare skyward, their clouded eyes judging your clumsy knife work. 3 crows materialize on the fence, their sidelong hop step betraying false innocence. You fling the first head, it arcs high before vanishing into midden shadows. Cold wind riffles your sleeves, snatching the fish stink and lofting it toward the goat pen. The ram stamps, his disapproval echoing off the wattle wall. 2 gulls swoop low, screeching like hag demons robbed of their teeth. You bury the offal under rotted barley husks, layer cake stenches mingling like rival clans at a grudging truce. Salt grains cling to your wrists, etched into hangnails with the persistence of a warlord's grudges. A bone shard pricks your thumb, vengeance from a herring implying posthumous dignity. Fish oil slicks the blade, its edge duller than grandsire's hearing after too much heather ale. Crow clan reinforcements gather, 6 dark shapes perched like mourners at a lightning-struck oak. Their throats pulse with greedy croaks, a chorus more off-key than your sister's reed pipe attempts last spring. You pitch the last guts, gizzard sack bursting midair like a sullied rain cloud. Bone ash streaks the midden's edge, your secret weapon against field mice tunneling toward grain stores. Fish blood patterns your forearm, a temporary tattoo marking another meal scraped from winter's bony grip. 3 feathers spiral down, crow bargaining tokens for rights to the feast. Herring flesh glistens in the drying rack, pale as bog corpse fingers under drizzle-gray skies. Your knife hand twitches, muscles singing the ballad of repetitive motion injury. Sea scent clings to your braid, a perfume no herbwife's poultice could ever banish properly. Moths flutter near the salt crust on your hem, their powdery wings dusting wool with wing speckles. One lands on the blade, oblivious to its proximity to a fish-scented doom. You blow gently, watching it bob away like an unanchored coracle. Midden soil shifts, black beetles already writhing beneath the fresh offerings. A lone blackbird hops close, tilting its head as if appraising your butchery skills. You flick a scale at its feet, an offering repaid with disdain, and disdain alone. Shadows stretch eastward, the sun's weak stare barely warming your nape. Fish rack ropes creak, a lament for maritime ghosts haunting your landlocked chore. Salt grates between your teeth, breakfast's porridge, never quite escaping yesterday's preservative haze. You rinse red-stained hands in the rain barrel, the water rippling with reflections of cloud-wisp specters. The crows descend their feast, commencing with all the decorum of starving berserkers. Bone clicks and gut squelches serenade your retreat toward hearth smoke and barley loaf crusts. Fish oil rainbows swirl in the wash water, a fleeting beauty born from drudgery's exhausted hands. Moonlight leaks through the roof thatch, its silver puddle interrupted by spindle whorl splinters on your lap. The cracked limewood disc feels warm from your grip, last week's wool spinning frenzy ending in a snap too familiar. Oak resin bubbles in a clay cup over coals, each stinking pop like ancient snack pack burps. 37 spins wasted before dawn, this repair job clawing at your sanity like badger kits in oat sacks. You tweezer out a wood sliver, its jagged edge mocking your calluses. Resin-dabbed twig meets fracture line, smoke threads rising as if summoning textile spirits. Experts confirm resin mending kept Celtic spindle whorls functional for generations, though your cramping fingers suggest those experts never tried it at moon high. Chervil paste numbs your blistered thumb, the wild plant's leaves crushed with goat fat into greenish sludge. One drop of resin sears your wrist, its amber trail hardening faster than lies at a clan gathering. The whorl's carved spirals snag your thumbnail, those grooves once guiding wool into thread smooth as otter fur. Some wild-minded folk whispered spindle whorls could tame storms, spin counter-sunwise during gales to split clouds. Your current hope stretches only to spinning flax without more blisters. The mare snores in her stall, each exhale rattling tools on the wall like bony chimes. Resin sets cloudy smoke's bite lingering in your sinuses. You test spin the whorl, its wobble lessening under your palm's stern pressure. 5 spins a 10, the disc humming lower than a drowsy beetle's wings. Moonlight etches dew on the threshold, a cold kiss warning of dawn's approach. Your thumb protests, stupid sexy spindle, refusing to acknowledge human pain thresholds. Chervil mush gets reapplied, its bitterness clashing with resin stench to create a nasal insult. Historians still argue whether carved whorl patterns mapped constellations or clan birth runes. Try explaining artistic intent when your spindle sounds like a dying hair. 30 test spins blur, tendons screaming the ballad of repetitive stress centuries before office jobs. Resin holds, barely, the mend line darker than bog water under peat. You flick the whorl, its new imbalance minimal enough for pre-dawn flax duties. A moth dive bombs the coals, wings crisping loud as hog cracklings. You rescue its smoking corpse, pathetic wings folded like failed sails. The moon retreats, its cowardice revealed as stars fade into milky haze. Chervil's numbness spreads, fingers tingling, as if dunked in melt streams. You spin 38 times, the whorl's song stabilizing into bored monotony. Done for now, the cracked discs, survival measured in days, not seasons. Dawn's first yawn pinks the east, your candle stub sputtering final protest. Resin-cooled fingerprints mark your cheek, 3 sticky badges of nocturnal perseverance. The spindle rests, its temporary truce enough for morning's first bleary-eyed wool drafting. Dawn's resin-smeared fingers grope across the floor, your shadow merging with the honey gourd's pregnant curve on the shelf. Beeswax seals weep amber tears, their slow surrender to summer's heat reminding you of grandsire's drunkard snores. You pry the stopper loose, the pop echoing louder than a bog body's joint cracking mid-thaw. Final threads of honey cling to the clay neck, golden strands stretching, then snapping like sun-weakened harp strings. 1 spoon scrapes the gourd's belly, its curved bronze edge squealing protest against pottery. Beekeeping thrived across ancient Britain, though your 3 hives barely cover trade debts this season. Sore throat brew steeps, woodruff and ribwort leaves curling in steam like drowned river nymphs. Honey swirls into the cup, liquid sunlight dissolving into murky depths. Historians still debate whether Picts used honey for wound packing or just mead. Your answer involves drinking both while bandaging axe-trimmed knuckles. Wasps thrum against the hide window, their paper nest pulsing like a hanged man's swollen tongue. Last week's sourdough clings to your knife, honey's sweet smear turning stale crumbs into luxury. Farmstead wives whispered charms to hives during harvest, telling bees of births and deaths, lest they flee. Sticky trails map your forearm, unwitting honey bribes for cellar ants, already forming raiding columns. Mare's hooves clop outside each step, muffled by turf-sodden paths. The brew scalds your lips, sweetness masking woodrough's grassy undertow. Candle grease dots float islands in honey seascape, requiring tactical spoon navigation. You lick bronze clean, the metal's tang warring with floral rot. Some far south scribes claimed Picts painted themselves with woad and honey, while your sticky elbows prove only gravity's cruel fascination with liquids. Sunlight claws its way up the wall, dawn's gold diluted into watery broth. The gourd sits hollow, empty, as promises after a cattle raid. Wasps launch kamikaze dives toward the cup, their buzzsaws drowned in herbal steam. 3 hardened wax flakes glitter, tombstones marking honey's grave. You pocket them for lamp repairs, waste not instincts older than Roman roads threading these hills. Sodden herbs sink, their usefulness spent like festival ale casks. Your throat unknots, honey's velvet glove, soothing the wolf growl left by peat smoke. Wasps retreat, nursing grudges for tomorrow's ambush. Steam ghosts rise, carrying whispers of meadowflower battles fought inside the hive. The empty gourd gapes, its curved innards cradling nothing but echoes. You cork it hard, sealing the memory of sweetness against famine-season doubts. Morning licks the threshold, cold tongue promising autumn's sharpened teeth. Wasps rasp a retreat, nest paper rustling, like dried skin scrolls in some forgotten hermit's cave. Green spit pools in your palm, dew water, and crushed ladies, mantle leaves churned into swampish paste. 17 nettle welts weep along both arms, each sting a white-hot needle left by those sheep-nip patrols through thistle patches. You press the poultice onto your wrist, rotten cabbage stench battling mince cool lie. 6th century, Britons swore by nettle tea for joint pain. Your generation prefers enduring agony while inventing creative curses. Blisters rise like tiny moons, skin tightening over venoms, slow burn. Wind hisses through the wattle walls, badger stink, riding the draft from moorland burrows. Historians still argue whether Picts used nettle fibers for fishing nets. But your fingers know only its cruelty and crude bandages. Crushed leaves stain linen green, horse urine yellow, seeping through the weave. Thumb-sized moths batter the rushlight, wing dust snowing onto your sting map. A healer once told you nettles grow best near haunted barrows, their roots sucking marrow from old bones. Tonight you believe her. 4 heartbeats throb in your blister cluster, synchronized torture timed by unseen drummers. Rain's first drops hit the thatch, each impact echoing like pebbles tossed on a taut drumskin. You grind more leaves between quartz stones, chlorophyll bleeding, onto granite speckled with fool's gold. Some mad continental scholar wrote nettles cured baldness, though grandsire's scalp remains stubbornly bare despite years of scalp packs. The poultice crusts over, a scabby prison locking heat beneath cracked earth. Counting nettle teeth quiets the pain, 37 pricks per leaf. 19 leaves per punished branch. Wind shoves rotten apples stench through gaps. In the daub autumn's B-R-E-A-T-H, Chinese letter, I-N-G, decay's winning streak. Thunder groans westward, its belly full of hail and grudges. You smear spit on fresh welts, a futile baptism, repelling nothing. Marshlight flickers beyond the midden will-o'-the-wisps dancing, where nettles guard forgotten offerings. Your needle probes a ruptured blister, pain flaring brighter than blacksmith forge flames. 17 sheep bleat outside stupid wool mountains, oblivious to skin's fragility. Nettle patches thrive on battlefields, gorging on iron-rich blood and dropped spearheads. Hail applauds the roof now, ice pebbles rolling down sod slopes into darkness. You rewiled the poultice, green goop, resurrected with morning urine's sharp tang. Folk tales claim nettle witches brew storms in cauldrons of frog spawn. Tonight's sky seems determined to prove them right. Lightning forks the valley, white fire branding, eyes with afterimages of skeleton trees. Pain hums along nerve paths, your body, a harp strung too tight for storm season. Tomorrow's rain already pools between flagstones, each puddle reflecting lantern glow like trapped spirits. You peel off the linen bandage, skin sticking, then tearing free with wet protest. Badger stink sharpens, rain driving the musky reek of den dwellers westward toward your stores. Dawn feels hours away, seconds stretched by nettle venom, and thunder's irregular heart. Thumbprints bruise your forearm, documenting clumsy herb gathering in moonless brambles. Nettle venom's recipe, formic acid, histamine, forgotten. Warrior ghosts spitting curses from soil. Rain sweeps under the door now, each wave carrying peat-stained runoff from the high moors. The last rushlight drowns wick, hissing its surrender to damp air. You shut your eyes, counting nettle teeth, until thunder's drumline marches toward distant valleys. Cold seeps through wool, autumn's teeth, finding purchase at last. Tomorrow's chores loom, mending storm-torn thatch, salvaging grain from flooded stores. Nettle stings pulse beneath their green scabs, persistent reminders that healing often hurts worse than the wound. Hail melts into sleet, needle rain, stitching night's black shroud tighter around the farmstead. Your breath steams in rhythm, each exhale a prayer for nettles to soften by dawn. Outside, forces gather along paths, mud-slicked with night's vendetta. The storm's fury exhausts itself, slowing into drizzle's whispered epilogue. First, crows call their voices, shredded by wind, over the nettle moor. You press your burning wrist to damp earth, coolness leaching through packed soil like absolution. Gray light bleeds through smoke hole cracks, 10 hesitant fingers painting exhaustion across your eyelids. Nettle patches shimmer wet, their stinging crowns bowed under rain's relentless liturgy. Your teeth ache from clenched jaws, a night-long battle against cries the wind would have swallowed anyway. Wounds stiffen into purple ridges, skin's rebellion memorialized in braille. Honey-gored shadows stretch long, dawn staining the threshold with stolen meadlight. You flex your hand, knuckles protesting like rusted hinge joints. Cold brew waits, yesterday's woodruff offering forgiveness in a chipped clay cup. The storm retreats, leaving behind slit trenches where rain knives gutted the path. Nettles stand triumphant, their venom sacs refilled for the next clumsy invader. Midges rise from soaked ground, living smoke signals announcing autumn's tightening siege. Your poultice cracks, flakes spiraling down like poisoned snow onto rush-strewn floors. One blistered knuckle splits, open copper-bright blood beating, where scab surrendered. Sunrise stains the eastern cloud bank, weak tea spilled across rumpled fleeces. Morning's damp embrace settles, wool tunic reeking of wet dog and defeat. You rub crusted eyes, each blink scraping sand grit into raw nerves. Nettle welts shimmer, sapphire halos around alabaster domes where pain holds court. Fog wraps the farmstead, damp wool pressed against your face with each breath. Hempen soles sink into mud, cold seeping through frayed fibers like some liquid winter. Cowlows rumble through the mist, their vibrations felt more than heard. You pluck a reed stem, split it thin with your thumbnail. Some half-drunk memory guides your fingers, spirals carved absent-mindedly like those Pictish stones west of Abernethy. Milk fog blurs fence posts into sentinels, each one swaying as you pass. Dew soaks your leggings to the knee, nettle rash flaring angry beneath wet wool. Barley fields become a snail's silvered highway, glistening trails, mapping journeys toward tender shoots. Farmers measured dondu heft in clay bowls. You measure it in squelching discomfort. Curlew cries echo from the reed beds. Your flutes wobbly reply, earning snorts from dark shapes in the mist. Historians still debate whether Picts fluted for courtship or crop blessings. Right now, you're just baiting geese away from cedros. Peat smoke tang cuts the fog, grandsire's hearth fire struggling against damp. Your left sole flaps loose, hemp fibers surrendering to mud's persistent kiss. 3 cows materialize like stone draft spirits, steam curling from wet nostrils. Moss squelches between your toes at the field's edge. 6th century field markers often used carved hazel rods. You use a pile of otter-gnawed trout bones. Kneeling feels like sinking into a bog corpse's embrace. Your reed flute dribbles rainwater down the blade's curve. Cowbells clonk dissonantly. Some beasts tether tangled in blackthorn. You wade toward the sound, dew nettles lacing your ankles with fresh stings. Folk tales claimed snail slime prevented blisters, but your heels weep red proof of the lie. Dawn's first gray fingers comb the marsh, turning your breath plumes ghostly. Pre-dawn bird calls flicker, warbles, answering your flute's croak between barley rows. Cold numbs your lips, reed stem pricking, chapped skin raw as salted pork. A snail trail glitters, transforming thistle stems into stolen bridal jewelry. You pocket 3 shells, their spirals clockwise, like spring tides rolling shoreward. Milkmaids once wore snail shell necklaces against elf shots. You just need bait for tench fishing later. Mist thins, revealing hoof-pocked fields, now squirming with earthworms fleeing drowned burrows. Dew magnifies spiderwebs, each one bejeweled like some chieftain's war tablet. Your right foot finds a hidden furrow, ankle twisting with sweet pea pop. Cursing feels good. The Gaelic kind grandsire claims frightens water horses. 16th century monks would have washed your mouth with juniper soap. Here, only crows bear witness. They cackle approval from ash trees. Fog retreats up the valley walls, unveiling soaked sheep, huddled like misplaced snowdrifts. You limp toward the cow pen, hemp sandal, flopping with pathetic grace. Dew weighs your tunic hem, dragging cloth like river anchors. Meadowlarks pierce the gloom, their notes sharper than broken glass. You mimic their staccato trills, flute gurgling like a drowning vole. One curious heifer approaches, snorting mist at your mud-caked knees. Damp leather rope bites your palm, untangling knots stiffened by midnight downpours. Scholars still argue whether ancient Picts kept cattle for milk or prestige. This one seems to specialize in trampling turnip patches. Rainwater pools in your collar, trickling down your spine like icy fingers. The path glimmers ahead, 1,000 snail trails converging toward the beck's song. Reed light dies as true dawn finally climbs the eastern dunes, spilling weak gold across your stolen flute childhood memories of fog-muffled mornings, of footsteps syncopated with dripping tree song, of mud sucking at retreating night. Through the haze, the barley field's snail-silvered path now shines, vibrant as poured pewter in the swelling light. Your blistered heel finds one last snail, its shell spiral perfect as a storm-carved galaxy, etched in transient dew before day, erases all its glistening roads. Your breath frosts the air as you approach the byre, iron hinges crusted white as a crone's braids. The door resists your shoulder shove, screaming like a displeased water horse from grandsire's tales. Wandering monks claimed goose grease, soothed cranky hinges, and cranky abbots back in 8th century Iona. You fumble for the clay pot, its lid sealed with stolen beeswax. Goose fat congeals into lumpy amber, the stench of last autumn's slaughter, clinging stubbornly. Cold numbs your fingertips, making you drop the pot twice before prying it open. Some whispered that goose grease attracted house spirits. Right now, you'd trade 3 chickens for just one helpful poltergeist. Coagulated fat yields under your knife, scraped grudgingly like bad mead dregs. Frost glitters on the hinge as you smear grease across screaming metal. Historians still argue whether Pictish carvings held practical meanings or ritual ones. This hinge's floral etchings just love trapping rust. First drip, goose fat meets iron with a resentful hiss. You count heartbeats 4, 7, before the grease softens into sluggish tears. Second drip, warmer than your numb toes now. Your blade scratches rough patterns, black rust powdering the threshold like powdered nightmares. The hinge shrieks again, a sound like ice winding between vertebrae. You smear another scoop, knuckles grazing ice-sharp metal. Folk cure or foolishness, grease slather, might earn you one creaking inch of movement. Saxon traders swore by walrus blubber. But you've never clubbed anything oilier than river eels. Leather gloves stiffen, every finger bending slow as winter roots. You brace against the doorframe, knee protesting yesterday's tumble into the midden. Ancient wood groans. A splinter takes residence beneath your thumbnail. Third swipe grease pooling slow as sunrise over stagnant marshes. Hinges drink the fat, swallowing those golden droplets like thirsty earth. Your boots slide on frozen mud, hips slamming timber hard enough to rattle teeth. One creaking protest, then stillness. Your lungs burn each exhale unfurling like battle smoke in dawn's gray crawl. Medieval hinges often failed from overgreasing. But you'd bless Saint Columba himself for any hint of looseness. Fourth assault, heaving until vision blurs with effort sparks. Metal grumbles, finally surrendering a hand's width of bitter daylight. Frozen straw crunches beneath the door's edge, revealing 2 frozen kittens curled in wool scraps. 16 classic pushes, according to grandsire's tally marks, etched above the lintel. You mimic his Gaelic curses, words that redden a nun's ears 5 parishes over. The right hinge relents with a wet moan, its progress. You lean exhausted against the timber, cold leaching through your tunic's thin wool. Dawn stains the grease puddle gold, liquid light stolen from night's greedy grasp. Victory tastes faintly of rancid poultry and stubbornness. Tomorrow will refreeze these hinges, you know that. Today the gap widens just enough to fetch muckrakes and milking stools. Stolen sunlight pools around the grease-smeared hinge, your small rebellion against winter's tightening fist. Farm tools retrieved, you turn toward the hazel grove when a thin wail stitches through the wind. Frost-nipped ears strain. Another reedy cry leads you to gnarled elder roots near the midden heap. Twill cords bite deep into fur. A young weasel's ribs heave like a broken bellows. Medieval farmers often set snares for crop thieves, though Agrippa's ancient manuals warned against catching twisted-tailed demons near sacred trees. Its chest pulses frantic, each breath shallower than the last moon phase's tide pull. You kneel frozen earth, numbing your knees through worn leggings. The creature stills, black eyes reflecting your silhouette as some skittish god. Historians still argue whether Picts trapped weasels for fur or considered them spectral messengers cheating death's grip. Your blade saws at oiled twine, but Pict knots defy Saxon steel. 3 heartbeats pass, the weasel twists, its screech sharper than bog iron spearheads. Twill won't yield. You fumble for grandsire's badger grease tin in your pouch. Folk charms claim greasing traps spoils their magic. Right now, you'll try anything short of kissing a monastery's relic. Globs smear across taut cords, the stink of rancid fat making the weasel sneeze. One loop slackens, a cheer-worthy miracle, until the remaining noose tightens around its hind leg. Bone grinds beneath fur, your throat knots like a faulty fishnet. Cold air burns your lungs, counting stars through hazel branches to stay calm. Winter's dog star glares down, a merciless eye brighter than forge coals. Celtic hearth tales, whispered weasels carried souls between realms. Tonight, this one clearly missed its ride. Digging thumbs under the knot, you tear a fingernail down to raw quick. Weasel blood blooms dark on snow, a poppy field in miniature. 10 tries, each failure answered by weaker kicks. Dawn's sly fingers creep closer, starglow, winking out one by one. You press a curl of dried apple to its muzzle, ignoring the bite that splits your callus. Wild things rarely understand help, especially when it arrives with human stink and clumsy hands. The apple falls, rejected, stained pink, with spit and blood. Gaelic curses warm your tongue, useless as last summer's thistledown. The final knot unravels under your knife tip, only to reveal severed tendons beneath. 3 breaths stutter through the weasel like a cracked flute's last notes. Then stillness drapes over it like night maidens. Wool, elder wood creaks overhead, releasing a dusting of frost ghosts. You cradle the body, light as barley chaff, under dog stars' fading glare. Scholars debate whether pigs buried or burned pest animals. At this moment, you crave fire's purifying hiss. Your boot heel scrapes a hollow in frosted soil, shallow enough for foxes to ignore. Flint strikes sparks onto tinder, births a flame that consumes fur and failing hopes alike. Smoke coils eastward, a final journey guided by indifferent winds. Embers die before reaching the hazels, ash settling between root and rime. Some mornings, small losses gut you deeper than ox-goring spectacles. Today, you return to frozen tools with salt-crusted eyes and dirt under bitten nails. The hearth fire sputters, ash still clinging to your fingertips from this morning's bitter rites. Your loom leans against the north wall, its walnut frame mocking you with a snapped warp thread sway. Pictish weavers used nettle fiber for its strength, though right now, the frayed end taunts you like a drunken bard's broken verse. You pinch the snapped cord, tugging, until the heddle lever cracks louder than ice on a mead jug. Splinters jut from the oak where goosebone reinforcement once held. Medieval Britons carved protective sigils on looms. One expert swears they found a raven glyph meant to scare off cloth moths. Your own loom sits bare, no magical bird to save you from this knotted nightmare. Nettle cord stings your palms, blisters from yesterday's thistle-picking reopening as you twist fresh threads. Across the room, that half-finished cloak sags like a sheep carcass in mud. Historians still argue whether warp breaks meant bad omens or just bad craftsmanship. Right now, you side with omens. 3 attempts to splice the thread fail, each knot unraveling faster than a weasel's last breath. Your knuckles whiten, dusk bruises blooming on skin already raw from frost-gouged soil. Linen scraps litter the floor, a battlefield of failed ambition. 10 heartbeats pass. You consider dragging the whole thing outside for wolf kindling. Looms need tension like a bowstring. Too tight, threads snap. Too loose, patterns sag like a drunkard's smile. You brace one foot against the frame, pulling, until shoulder joints creak louder than frozen door hinges. The replacement cord bites into flesh, a nettle-burn kiss, merging with old blisters. Through the smoke hole, the last daylight stains wool waste crimson. Folk tales claim cloth woven by moonlight frays faster, but your hands itch to finish before our song begins. The heddle's sharp edge nicks your wrist, 3 blood beads swelling like misplaced garnets. You fumble for grandmother's cobweb dust jar, clotted webs staunching the cut, while spider silk bonds to your skin. One chronicler insists Anglo-Saxon healers did this, though they probably avoided cursing like you do right now. The loom groans, a splintered song, competing with your grinding teeth. More tension, another snapped thread, the universe laughing through broken reeds outside. Your spindle rolls into the ashes, its whorl blackening like a miniature moon in eclipse. 14 wasted stalks of flax crumple under your stomping foot, scattered like winter-killed stars. A moth flutters too close to your ear, its wings whispering secrets in a dialect you almost understand. You swat, missing by 2 thumb widths, as nettle sting throbs crescendo through your palm. Sky's bruise purple deepens, the temperature dropping blood quick as you knot, rip, repeat. Flax plants grow shorter than in Roman times, climate cooling year by year. That's a fact dropped by every wandering trader. Their gossip doesn't help mend this damned loom. You spit on the frayed end, twisting fibers into predatory tightness. Crash. The heddle lever splits down its middle as stress wins again. You freeze, half expecting grandmother's ghost to scold you for doomed persistence. 3 cracks mimic thunder, though the night sky drips silence. Some ancient fool claimed nettlecord hums, when properly tensioned, a harp song for patient fingers. Yours only screech like a butchered piglet. Sweat beads despite the cold, tracing salt tracks down your spine as dusk surrenders to star-flecked dark. Your thumbnail peels back, metallic taste flooding your mouth where you bit too deep. Shadows stretch, the loom's skeleton, now a crouching beast with snap-drip grievances. One consolation, tomorrow's sunrise, can't possibly demand more than tonight's failures. You wrap the last shred of nettle twine, crisscrossing the shattered lever like binding a warrior's broken limb. Fingers cramp, a sickled moon, rising to witness the crooked patch job. Historians may praise your people's textiles, but they never had to rethread a loom by firelight. The final knot holds barely as your shadow dances victory on soot-stained walls. You slump against chilled clay bricks, the cloak's jagged pattern mocking all who seek beauty in broken things. Outside, a vixen screams, and your blistered hands twitch toward the knife belt. Tomorrow, the loom will likely collapse mid-weave. Tonight, you dream of scissors sharp enough to cut through the fabric of time itself. The oat stores stink hits first, a vinegar-sour tang that curls your nose hairs like burnt parchment. Moonlight slices through reed thatch gaps, exposing moth wings powdering the air like cursed snowflakes. You lift a hemp sack, weevils skitter in armored panic. Their click-clack retreats echoing Roman tax collectors fleeing a bar fight. Hidden infestations plague every harvest. Even Caesar's legions wrote about grain moths munching through Egyptian shipments. Those marble palace bureaucrats never squashed bugs barehanded, though your thumbnail crunches through a weevil's shield, its innards oozing herbal oil stench. 3 sacks already sport lace holes, moth larvae gorging themselves plump as sottish merchants. You tear open a 4th, dust plumes choking the air with spores. Folk remedies whisper through memory, grandsire's tale of burying a wolf's skull beneath granaries to repel pests. Archaeologists found one such skull last century, still snout deep in Yorkshire clay near ruined storehouses. Tongues wag whether it warded evil spirits or just scared mice. Dampness seeps up through flagstones, your heel grinds a wandering beetle into mosaic smithereens. Malting grain clumps like wet wool, black dots dancing in the cracks. Historians still argue whether Picts saw infestations as battle omens or just blamed lazy storeroom guards. Tonight you're firmly in the lazy guard camp. 12 moonlit minutes pass, counting losses by larvae clusters. Each sack wombles under your palm, betraying squirm shapes beneath. One moth lands on your wrist, dusting scales like ghostly fingerprints. Its wings mimic oak bark, perfect camouflage against pyre smoke stained rafters. You blow it toward the doorway, a mercy it won't repay come egg-laying season. That rancid tang strengthens, source traced to a corner sack's belly. The split seam spills gray gruel, mildew's velvet tongue licking stone grooves. Your knife slashes the sacking, sludge cascades like a drunkard's last supper. 5 months of harvest labor pooling at your feet, fermented into vulpus perfume. For every 50 weevil carcasses, you rescue 3 palmfuls of intact oats. Gnawed grains become chicken feed tomorrow, if the hens survive their current lice epidemic. Screw-shaped weevil jaws tunnel deeper than Roman road diggers, their mandibles shredding hope alongside barley seed. Dawn's first yawn pinks the eastern sky, breezes carrying petrichor to mask decay's stench. Your tally scratches into a wax tablet, cross-hatched lines mocking arithmetic skills abandoned in childhood. 3 salvageable sacks remain, 27, awaiting bonfire purification. Someone's fist pounds clay outside, probably Finian, demanding breakfast oats already. Moth wings kiss your eyelashes, last stragglers fleeing their ill-gotten feast. You swat one from your hair, its down clings like funeral ash. The sourness coats your tongue now, a taste memory shouting famine winters past. Historians cataloged 7 grain plagues during Hadrian's reign, must have tasted this exact flavor. Birdsong pierces the gloom, swallows swooping for moth breakfast over standing stones. Your palm smears grime across a hip, joining oat dust and beetle blood in a crusted masterpiece. 3 splinters nest under thumbnail beds, prizes from wrestling rotted hemp fiber. 1 final sack hefts upright, loopholes miraculously sparse. Its oats whispering promises of unmoldy bread. 300 heartbeats later, ash ladles over the spoiled heap. Flames snatch dampness first. Then the mildew catches like grudges shared between feuding cousins. Smoke coils into dawn's throat your eyes, weeping victory tears for pestilence purged. Finian's fist pounds louder, the chickens now squawking unity with his grouch song. Weevil husks crunch underfoot all morning walk, crumbling like vanquished foes beneath sandaled might. The granary reeks less of defeat now, more like ordinary dirt and herbal repellents. You scatter crushed mint and rowan leaves. Grandma's anti-moth ritual-needing moon cycles to prove worth. Sunlight glints on retreating carapaces, weevil armor shining, tiny shields in retreat. And there, between pantry shadow and creeping dawn, you swear oat dust motes form wolf skull shapes midair before dissolving into nothing. His breath rasps, a wet rattle deep in the chest that sets your own lungs aching in sympathy. Frost feathers his nostrils, each exhale unfurling steam ghosts toward star-pierced pines. You crouch against his flank, coarse fleece, matted with old blood from last season's wolf scrapes. Pictish herders prized rams as battle standards. Clan leaders even painted war symbols on their curly horns before raiding. 1 ear twitches at your touch, the other lost years ago to frostbite's purple teeth. His remaining eye reflects moonglare milky with age, yet sharp as flint shards. Local legends claim blind rams can sniff death 3 dawns off, though you caught this old glutton stealing turnips just yesterday. Labored breaths sink with pine bough sways, the rattling gurgle undercut by wind murmurs. Your palm traces horn ridges, whether cracks deeper than Roman roads. You memorize pulse throbs beneath thin skin, a rhythm older than Hadrian's wall, crumbling 20 miles south. Historians still argue whether Picts buried honored beasts, or just cracked bones for broth and tossed scraps to crows. His ribs shiver, each rise slower than the last, like tide pools draining. Ant hills hum nearby, their insect kingdoms, unaware of empires falling. A squirrel buried acorns here last autumn, its worried chirps from high branches ignored by the dying king. Yellow teeth grind air, nostrils flaring for one final scent of frostbitten heather. You press your forehead to his grease and peat smoke, clinging to both skins. His tongue lolls, blackened tip drooping like a wilted petal. Life flickers in that cloudy eye, pupil swelling to swallow the moon whole. 3 owls call answers across the valley, their cries sharpening the cold. You count heartbeats between his breaths, then between breaths and nothing. His weight sinks into your knees, earth reclaiming what stubborn blood denied winter. Moss drinks the last warmth quickly, hoof-frozen ground, indifferent to nobility. You snap a pine twig, its resin sticking under fingernails like old mead. 3 ravens land silently, their beady stares awaiting protocol. Claymore Loch fishermen swear ravens carry souls over mountains, though mostly they carry off lamb's eyeballs. His horns cool under your palm, carved spirals, whispering of 9 summers grazing high pastures. You untangle burrs from leg wool, knots unraveling after years, snarled by thorns. Dawn still hours away, the watch ended by outcry as promised. Rain needles your scalp, the kind of downpour that drowns bard songs and wolf howls alike. Your boots slurp mud, each step a battle against Earth's greedy pull. Pictish farmers cut runoff channels like this, using antler picks to save barley from drowning. You wedge the spade deeper, its oaken handle slick as a freshly caught salmon. Mossy stones snarl underfoot, water-chewing soil into soup where seedlings slept yesterday. Pebbles rattle like old teeth in the flood's throat, your knuckles white around spade grips. One gutter carved, then another deflecting the frothing brown serpent from tender roots. Storm water stings, eyelashes, the cold ache seeping into finger joints like bad news. Trench walls crumble, you curse the spade's rebellion like a sour milk cow. Some hedge witch probably hexed this tool last week. It pinched your thumb bloody at dawn. Historians still argue whether these trenches borrowed Roman aqueduct tricks or bubbled up from Pict mud wisdom alone. Bracken rustles downstream, a creeping sound you hope isn't an otter casing your boots. Rain drums your hood, its rhythm syncing with the ditch's growing gurgle. Moorhens screech insults from flooded sedge, their nests floating like tiny doomed coracles. Your thumb finds a blisters, split wide and stinging under mud slime. 14 paces cleared, 15 before the current gnaws, a new shortcut through your labor. Tree roots writhe in the bank, exposed toes wiggling like earthworms after a quake. Legends claimed storm rivers carried sky magic, though this one mostly carries sheep dung and rotten reeds. Clay clogs your nails, sealing crescent moons of grime under each fingertip. The spade jerks, striking granite with a spark that dies in the deluge. You imagine Roman engineers tutting from their graves, Hadrian's ghost sipping wine while you wrestle muck. Night bloats the clouds, waters chill numbing your cheeks raw as slaughter season pork. 2 more trenches dug, their lips shored up with sodden heather clumps. The main torrent relents, veering away from brittle oat shoots trembling in peat beds. Lungs burn each breath flavored with wet wool and iron-rich soil. You lean on the spade, its blade now nicked like a warrior's discarded dagger. 3 crows watch from drowned elder branches, heads tilted as if grading your pathetic ditch-digging skills. The field sighs, safe for now inside your rushed earthen banks. Your knees fold into mud, the rain's sting fading as exhaustion pulls lids low. Somewhere a frog croaks victory, its bog kingdom swollen with your night's toil. Moss drinks the runoff's last ripple, quiet swallowing the valley whole. You wring out your tunic hem, water pooling around boots, already sinking into gratitude. The spade stands sentinel, a rusty heron guarding what dawn barley remains. Thunder groans west, its threat rolling over hills too tired to care. You count 8 new blisters, each one a medal from the storm's sharp court. Cold seeps up your spine, waters chill carving runes into weary bones. Clouds fray overhead, moonlight bleeding through like mead through cheesecloth. Tomorrow's ache waits in your shoulders, a familiar guest eager to unpack its bags. The rain runnels gleam silver now, earth wounds transformed into life's crooked veins. Mud suckles your toes, a squelching chorus to replace water's roar. Your breath steams less fiercely, the fight draining with the floods retreat southward. All quiet except the hedge's drip rhythm, a slow harp played by ghost fingers. You scrape clay from your jaw, fingernails drawing lines like plowshares on virgin soil. 5 heartbeats pass, maybe 6, before standing feels possible again. The midden heap glistens downstream fish guts and broken pots baptized by the sky's tantrum. Your boots leave slurred prints homeward, each step lighter than the spade's rebellion. Rain's last drops tap your nape, gentle now as a shorn lamb's bleeding. Tonight's battlefield rests, a muddy truce holding until the next storm's war drums sound. Smoke thickens the air, your hearth fire choked by damp peat. Blue tendrils curl ceilingward, not gray, making your scalp prickle with old warnings. These are hissing hours between owl cry and wolf song, when herb wives supposedly whisper remedies to the desperate. A chill creeps your nape, the kind not born from drafts. Your blistered thumb throbs, the trench-digging wound now puffy with bad temper. Woundwort sits drying by the embers, its ratty leaves supposedly saints of the stitchless mend. Historians confirmed Roman legions packed it, field doctors calling it soldier's purse for battle gash binding. You croak a laugh, imagining Caesar's men cursing while stuffing greenery into gourd bellies. The ghost voice arrives when sparks spit green, a rasp like reeds dragged over shale. Its words blur, half memory, half fever hum telling of spider silk sutures spun from marsh plants, staunch blood with yarrow's lace. It murmurs, a cobweb brushing your inner ear. Smoke stings your nostrils, the scent shifting from wood tar to something like wet frog skin. Your knees give thumping onto packed earth near the fire's edge. One hand gropes for the woundwort, crumbling dried leaves into your palm. Spittle makes a paste, green grit clinging to the split flesh like bog scum. Fringe lore claims marshlights guide the dead, willow wisps luring souls into peat sinks. The herbalist's shadow flickers, edges fringed with blue halo glow, could just be methane igniting over swamps. But your mending hand tingles electric now. A bitter chuckle escapes. Since when did my asthma hallucinate knitting advice? Press the wound until moon pales. The wraith phrase, its rhythm syncopated like a dying crone's chant. You obey, thumb driving the poultice deeper, awaiting spider silk miracles. The fire pops, startling you into noticing frost creeping up the clay walls despite the flames. Historians still argue whether Pictish healers used anesthesia or just screamed louder than their patients. The ghost hisses a counterpoint. Nettle brew dulls bone saws. Your own nettle stung earlier. No comfort there. Just white welts mocking your sheep-tending gloves. Blue coils thicken, swirling into shapes like gnarled roots or arthritic fingers. The wraith recounts a charm. Bindweed spun thrice widdershins to seal gangrene. Your gut clenches, part terror of this spectral nag. Medicine shouldn't smell like grave loam, yet the stink clings to your tunic folds. A log collapses, ember glow flaring across the herbwife's phantom jawline. Moss greens her teeth, eyes hollowed like scooped elderberries. You almost drop the woundwort, her clawed gesturing, suggesting your thumb-bind needs rewrapping. That quirky marsh gas reek returns, eggy and sulphurous, swallowing her next words. Her hands pantomime threading, invisible needle tugging at your skin. Real thread lies abandoned by the cornstone, but this phantom stitch pulls tighter. Clouded memory floats up, how Roman scribes mocked Celtic healers as root grubbers. Yet their own medici used crushed garden slugs in poultices, hardly better. The wraith snickers, a sound like rodents gnawing you wood, as if reading your thoughts. Your eyelids droop, firelight smearing into fog-bound marsh scenes. Damp grass licks your wrists, willow shadows leaning close as conspirators. The woundwort pulses against your thumb, hot, then cold, binding flesh, while blurring reason's edges. A gut-churn stench hits, like vinegar brewed in a bog corpse's belly. You recoil from the mead vat, its oak staves weeping amber, tears through a thumb-width fissure. Fly clouds swarm upward, green-bottled and buzzing, their drone drowning the hearth's crackle. Pine pitch simmers over coals, globby resin belching greasy smoke. Historians note Picts used it for boat caulking, and apparently emergency ale repairs. You stab a hairstick into flames, its tip blackening like a saint's scorched relic. 3 jabs at the crack each smeared pitch plug, hissing against seeping mead. The vat groans, a sour belch misting your cheeks with fermented spit. Fringe archaeology claims burnt hair traps evil spirits' guardians against souring brew. Your charred sticks jut crooked, tiny sentinels, oozing sap blood into the wound. Acid stink clings, a vinegary punch, masking wood smoke's comfort. Rot expands, wrinkled mead skin sagging like a drowned elder's cheeks. Historians still debate whether Picts drank mead solemnly or guzzled it between sheep shearings. You scoop a tasting shell, liquid murky as peat water tongue curling at the tang. 3 survival options flicker, drain it, serve it to Roman spies, or pray fermentation redeems the batch. Fly corpses float, their iridescent wings glued to the surface scum. You flick a beetle from the pitch pot, its carapace popping in molten resin. 6 more sticks char, emergency plugs for weeping wood gaps. Each insertion oozes golden bubbles, the vat's death rattle, singing high and reedy. A memory surfaces, Roman traders sneering at Celtic swill brews, while theirs reeked of goat fat preservatives. The pitch smokes blue, a sulphurous ghost, dancing over sticky fingerprints. Knuckles sting, blisters rising where boiling resin spat defiance. Midnight crawls, moonlight puddling around the vat's swollen base. Last plug, set a pitch-sealed scar, puckering the oak's flank. Mead seeps slower now, a sugared drip, drip, mocking your patchwork mend. Faint hissing continues, fermentation's secret labor beneath the rot stench. You slump against the wall counting fly corpses, while mead skin wrinkles tighter. Tomorrow brings either salvation or a village stomachache, legend with your name etched in shame. Your gloves rasp against thistle stems, leather cracked from scrubbing pitch-crusted fingers. Moonlight ghosts across purple blooms, their spines glinting like Roman spear tips, weathered in peat-bog iron. You fumble, a sharp sting needling through worn, seams near your thumb. Blood beads, 3 spots darkening, the frayed wool patch, stitched their last harvest. Midnight fields breathe cold, each exhale misting silver in the pale light. Beltane fires burned months ago, yet your palm remembers blisters from feeding ceremonial pyres. Ancient Picts harvested thistles for poultices, their prickly leaves staunching wounds better than Roman spider silk sutures. You tug one stubborn root, its tapeworm squirming deeper, defiant as a druid denying Caesar's scribes. Thistledown floats, a seed parachute landing in your eyebrow. Fringe archivists swear plants picked under a waxing moon hold twice the healing grit. Your belly knots, still sour from tasting that cursed mead. Maybe thistle tea would have been smarter than pine pitch fumes. A joke creeps in you, could stuff rotten vat cracks with these spines. Let drunkards earn their belly aches, stitch by stitch. Glove leather tears louder, fingertip meeting barbed ambush beneath leafy shadows. You arch backward, knuckles pressed to lips, blood's copper tang mixing with sheep-dung night air. 18 pricks mark the tally now, 4 matching scars from last year's Samhain brew mishap. Historians still argue whether Picts used thistles ritualistically or just cursed them while mucking goat pens. Frost crisps the meadow's edge, crunching quietly beneath worn soles. You kneel amidst flowers armored like charioteers, snapping stems above the root ball's grip. Burrs catch your sleeve, Velcro sharp, before Velcro's time. This land invented stubbornness, long before Rome's roads split Caledonian soil. Moonglow rinses color from the field, leaving only steel-tipped lavender, and shadows pooling in boot prints. Your basket gapes, half filled with jagged trophies, when a nightjar's cry freezes your wrist mid-reach. Breath held the bird swoops, snatching a moth off a thistle crown like some feather-tailed tax collector. A chuckle escapes. This moon makes poets of scavengers, elegizing flowers built for battle, not beauty. You twist another stem, its sap milky white, itching to fester beneath your skin. 3 more drops swell ruby-bright payments to the earth for borrowed medicine. Dawn lingers, hours away, the stars wheeling westward, their cold gaze nibbling your hunched spine. Fox scent drifts, reeking of chickens paid for an advance, its path traced through crushed barley stalks. Your palms smart, ghosting over stolen moments, every thorn a ledger mark scored in Pictish flesh. The basket's weight grows, bruised knuckles matching purple blooms, as you turn toward home, where hearth ash still smolders, holding the night's slow sting until morning. Iron screeches, sparks spiraling like fireflies from the blades, edge, stone teeth biting into neglected steel. Your whetstone hand cramps, salty sweat stinging the meat between thumb and forefinger. Dawn crouches beyond the eastern hills, a gray smear behind charcoal clouds, while your knee grinds into mud-stiffened trousers. The plowshare's curve glows dull red, its edge chewed, ragged, after tangling with Roman road stones buried beneath oat fields. 3 drops of goose-fat sizzle, smelling like last summer's battlefield pyres, as you stroke the blade across wet sandstone. Pictish grindstones spun clockwise, archaeology confirms their preference against the sun's path for ironwork. Your elbow jerks, a misfired muscle memory, nearly grazing knuckles already raw from nettle scratch patrols. Sparks pop, one landing on your wrist, a brief star burn before dying in goosebumped flesh. Fringe theorists claim iron filings mixed with grindstone sparks could induce visions, druid lore hallucinogens, wafting on workshop vapors. You snort, more likely just inhaling last winter's hearthsoot shaken loose by all this shuddering, your lungs already protesting like overworked bellows. The stone shrieks again, a sound to wake grave-mouldered warriors, making you miss sheep shearing's rhythmic snips. Historians still argue whether Picts sourced iron locally or traded secrets from smiths beyond Hadrian's rotten wall. Your blade reveals its truth, peat bog or stubborn grit, flecks of quartz sparkling like crushed stars in the metal's throat. Firefly sparks swarm, illuminating dewdamp cobwebs strung between rafters. Each pass builds heat, the iron singing higher, steam rising where droplets hit its glowing belly. You count strokes between wrist rests, 38 spins before dawn's dew, just like the old smith taught before wolves took his left leg. Palm blisters burst, liquid salt seeping into the whetstone's grooves. Your spine knots, remembering yesterday's endless thistle harvest, how bent backs attract worse than aching muscles. A joke forms. Maybe sparks could cauterize your mead-soured gut, save the village herbwife another grimace at your poor life choices. Iron stink floods your sinuses, that blood metal tang Romans claimed Picts drank before raids. Truth tastes simpler, just fatigue, and last night's rancid cheese clinging to your tongue. Friction numbs your fingertips, stone grit embedding itself in lifelines, future scars mapping tonight's labor. Moonlight fades, swallowed by the grindstone's angry glow. Your bicep trembles the plowshare, finally showing a hungry arc of sharpness, honed enough to slice dawn's first light. Wet sandstone smokes, embers dying in the mud below your knees. Stars wheeling westward blink, judging your progress, cold as Roman coins pried from a chieftain's burial mound. Cramp strikes your whole arm, seizing fingers splaying wide as the stone clatters onto frost-crisped grass. Jaw clenched, you stretch toward the blade, its edge winking clean and cruel. Sheep bleat in distant paddocks, their voices frayed with morning thirst. You spit on the metal saliva, boiling into steam, testing sharpness against wool cloak threads. Snick, snick, they fall severed like barley stalks beneath a sickled moon. Satisfaction warms your chest, brief and bright as sparks born from stubborn rock. Leather straps creak, hefting the blade into its wool-padded sling. Shoulder muscles shriek protest, dulled iron transformed into a harvest-worthy tongue. Wind shifts, carrying peat smoke and dung scent from waking cottages, the village groaning alive. Whetstone rests, still humming with stolen heat, its surface scarred by tonight's battle. You flex your hand, blister fluid staining the hempen wrap, dawn light creeping through rotten fence gaps. Dove breath ghosts your palm, their feverish coos ruffling gray feathers, matted with night damp. You crumble poppy seed crusts, the same monastery remedy Byzantine texts claim soothes both birds and battle-shocked men. 3 pigeons huddle in the wicker cage, each shivering like birch leaves in a north wind, their swollen crop sacks pulsing beneath your fingertips. Dawn creeps across mud walls, a weak tea stain of light, fighting the hawthorn hut's shadows. You peel a bloated oat grain from under your nail, remembering how Celtic tribes kept doves for messages, not Romans with their fancy wax tablets and eagle standards. One bird lists sideways, its left wing drooping, a fate shared by half the flock this moon cycle. Easy now, Windrider, your thumb strokes its exposed keelbone sharp as a broken quernstone edge. Historians still argue whether Pictish clans used these birds for sacred rites, or just winter stew when barley ran thin. The joke dies in your throat, studying their milky eyes, knowing tonight's fox tracks already circle the midden heap outside. Poppy milk glistens, sticky threads snapping as you wedge paste between beaks. A theory whispers, maybe dove blood could reveal farsight if you boiled it with mistletoe berries, like those Gaulish scrolls mention. You snort, more likely catch lung rot crouched in this damp hutch. But the herb wife would skin you alive for wasting her remedies if these birds die. Their coos synchronize, a raspy 3-note dirge that prickles your nape hairs. You blow warm breath into fluffed chests. Imagine Roman soldiers hearing similar sounds before siege towers groaned toward their walls. One bird pecks weakly, powdery down floating into your eyelashes, the scent of sour corn and sick animal fear thickening the air. Frost glazes the wicker bars, your knuckles scraping off ice as you swivel the cage toward first sunbeams. Tiny lungs rattle, each inhale shallower than the last, until the smallest collapses against its siblings. Motionless, 2 heartbeats stretch, then wings flap desperately, living birds trampling the corpse like refugees fleeing a burning village. You extract the body, still soft, clutching cholera-stiff chicks from 3 summers past. A debate surfaces while digging its grave. Did ancient healers truly wear doeskin gloves to feel a patient's fever pulse? Or is that just monk scribe nonsense? Clay-cold soil resists your digging stick, snapping on frozen roots, forcing you to nestle the pitiful weight beneath bramble thorns instead. Scavengers'll feast before noon. You spit, sour spit, freezing midair. The survivors watch, dark eyes dull as peat pool water, absorbing this crude funeral. Their remaining warmth seeps through your tunic, a sickly comfort, while distant magpies begin their mockery from ash tree heights. Fresh moss lines the cage floor, muffling restless talon scrapes. You bury poppy seeds in millet clusters, hoping instinct overrides pride, and count wing flutters between gulps of meltwater. 17, 18, the rhythm matching Celtic war drums, pounding inside your own sleep-starved skull. Sun climbs, barely staining the hawthorn cage like watered-down woad dye. You hum the same 3 notes violated earlier, testing whether birds recognize stolen melodies. No reaction, just labored breathing and the drip-drip of liquefied droppings staining your boot leather. Memory flickers 3 summers back, when this hut held healthy fledglings fattened for autumn trading. Their homing instincts rivaled imperial messengers. Even after 3 days' flight, you grudge. Now, weaklings barely survive to see oat harvests, their wings atrophied like rusted hinge metal in constant rain. The last crust dissolves, sweet paste vanishing into soggy grain. You lean closer, counting heartbeats against your own, when a shadow clots the doorway. Fox stench hits first, musk and blood-crusted fur, before yellow eyes gleam in gloom. Not today, thief, your sickle arcs, iron biting into damp earth between its paws. The creature retreats, haunches stiff, yet watches. Always watches. Traditions whisper that Pictish warriors wore fox-teeth necklaces to steal cunning. Fools, they should have braided the whole pelt into cloaks to smell betrayal brewing downwind. Cold gnaws through your knees now, numbness spreading where mud sucks at worn trousers. The birds quiet, shock still, as predator musk fades from the air. One survivor tucks its head, a feathered rock pretending death, while the other stares toward pine forests brimming with hawks. Wind shifts, carrying peat smoke and a child's cough from the nearest roundhouse. Your palm cups the bold bird, its rapid pulse skittering like hare feet over frozen streams. Minutes pass, dawn bleeds into overcast morning, before warmth finally stabilizes beneath your touch. You rise, joints screaming, thigh muscles trembling like overstretched bowstrings. The birds shift, alarmed at sudden movement, before resuming their quiet misery. Outside, fox tracks skirt the dung pile, sharp claws etching scornful marks in frost. Pausing on the threshold, you eyeball the midden heap, where fish guts lure crows each dawn. 3 pebbles skim the ice, plink, 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 scattering black wings into gunmetal skies. Let them distract scavengers, buying your charges a few more hours' peace. Back inside, the remaining doves huddle together, a miserable feathered mound radiating fragile heat. You smear lichen paste on the cage hinges, silencing their screech, while drizzle whispers through the thatch above. Sunlight vanishes, swallowed by storm clouds, as you bask in the hawthorn hut's loneliness. No lambs to birth, no barley to reap, just this wretched vigil over dying things. Footsteps squelch outside the herbwife's terse cough, but you pretend not to hear. Let her judge your nursing later, when these birds either soar or stiffen. Lightning forks eastward, a jagged scar splitting heavens, its thunder muffled by woolen clouds. The doves startle, flapping in panic, beating wings against wicker walls. You shush them uselessly until rain's roar drowns their cries. Wet chill seeps deeper your breath, frosting with each exhale, as storm rivers carve mud channels around the hawthorn cage. Inside, feathers puff, beaks gape, another ragged symphony beneath nature's indifference. Rain drums harder, 1,000 spears assaulting the roof, while you count wing beats between thunderclaps. 7:12:34. The bold bird rallies briefly, preening oilless feathers, before sagging against its silent sibling. Damp wool and mildew flood your nostrils, the stench of surrender. Yet beneath it, a thread of poppy seed sweetness lingers, stupid hope's last incense before extinction. Thunder cracks, nearer, rattling the cage bars. You press both palms against wicker, steadying the hut, while mudslides gurgle past the threshold. The bold dove meets your gaze, its eye reflecting stormlight like polished jet, before tucking its head beneath one wing. Rain slackens, wind dying to a bruised sigh as you slump against the dripping wall. Sleep taunts, heavy-lidded, but you fight it. Foxes hunt best in storm's aftermath, silent and starving their hunger sharper than neglected plowshares. The cage remains still, 2 gray lumps barely breathing, while your thumb traces the sickle's edge. Blood wells, a careless slip, joining rainwater in the muck below. Iron tang mixes with wet earth, an old ritual both Pictish smiths and Roman surgeons understood. Drizzle fades, clouds shredding westward, as noon's weak glare penetrates the hawthorn lattice. Both birds stir, weak necks craning toward imaginary sunlight. The bold one pecks at empty air, time-worn instincts flickering, misshapen wings half-spreading. You crunch through stiff grass, tearing dandelion leaves, their bitterness renowned for purging avian fevers in Gaul. The doves refuse, milky eyes narrowing, until hunger outweighs fear. Beaks dart, snatching green shreds, a fragile pact sealed in survival's currency. Faint warmth returns beneath their breastbones, steadying like a distant drum signal. You sink back, smearing mud over your bleeding thumb as wind flays the last storm scents away. The herb wife's loom clacks next door, its rhythm mocking your exhaustion. You hum again 3 stolen notes, and this time the bold bird echoes, a rasping coo vibrating through your palm like a second pulse. Mud squelches, footsteps pause outside, but your spine stays turned. Let visitors gawk. Let foxes scheme. Let storm-wrecked barley fields fester. Your world narrows, this cage, these ragged heartbeats, and a wicker door creaking open into uncertain skies. Eyes sting tearless as you stroke the bold dove's crown. It trembles, not recoiling, while dawn's first ghost flight beckons beyond rain-lashed pines. Your fingers meet the trough's rim, cold iron hidden beneath green tendrils that snake toward stagnant water. Ivy's grip tightens here, thicker than wolf throat tendons, even as your sickle glints dawn pale over knotted roots. Historians still argue whether Picts cultivated bindweed for dye, or just curse at its chokehold on their waterways like you do now. Each sawing motion tears through rubbery vines, the sound like wet hide parting under a dull blade. Frog spawn bobs beneath clusters of pearl slime clinging to root hairs, a quivering mass older than Rome's aqueduct engineers, and their sleek stone drains. A fringe belief whispers that northern seers read omens in spawn patterns, droplets mirroring star maps your ancestors navigated before Latin invaded their shores. Mud seeps into your boot seams, that persistent swamp kiss no waxed will ever fully defeats. You hack harder, gristle crunch, vibrating up your wrist, as matted roots reveal trough planks swollen to bursting. 5, 10, 15 heartbeats pass before stagnant water finds an escape, gurgling over your toes and carrying dead insects toward parched soil. Thorns bite your forearm, bindweed's spiteful farewell, as you peel back the last green shroud. Clouded water gulps for air, reeking of frog breath and deep earth metals, while minnow carcasses swirl in the sudden current. The sickle trembles in your grip, edge nicked from stone strikes, its usefulness dwindling faster than summer grain stores. Your heel slips, slamming kneecaps into moss-slick rock, pain flaring bright as that time you head-butted the smithy's anvil. A joke forms, something about ivy deserving Roman legionary pay for its siege tactics, but dies when brown water soaks your trousers. Cold seeps deeper than midwinter streams, sharp enough to numb shame over THIS Chinese letter pose. Silence follows the draining rush, leaky trough groaning like a gutted beast. You probe fractures between warped oak planks, split by freeze-thaw cycles even Caesar's engineers couldn't conquer, and sigh. Pine resin won't seal this. Only replacement saves it now, a chore requiring timber bargained from birch-worshipping clans upriver. Frog spawn glistens, exposed to weak sunlight, each gelatinous orb, holding a black pupil dot, staring heavenward. Traditions claim spawn scooped under a waning moon cures goiter, though your aunt swore it gave her neighbor worms thick as eels. You leave the slime untouched, knowing better than to trust marsh-born remedies Without the herbwife's blessing, the sickle finds a rhythm, now clearing secondary vines, strangling runoff channels. Each swing unearths beetle casings and mouse skulls, tiny ossuaries hidden beneath green conquest. 3 crumbling stones mark where water once flowed freely before roots devoured their purpose. Sun climbs, thin as broth, mirroring itself in murky puddles between your boots. You pause, palming your lower spine, when a splashing riot erupts downstream. Eels awakened by the disturbance writhe through mud clouds like liquid shadows, their bodies thrashing in moon diet revelry. Don't flirt, we're not roasting you till solstice. You mutter, chucking a pebble that vanishes in churned silt. Salted eel sustained Caesar's troops during British winters, the irony as thick as their preserved flesh in legion mess tins. Wind shifts, carrying goat bleats and wood-chopping thuds from distant steadings. Almost mid-morning, 2 hours wasted on one beleaguered trough, with another dozen awaiting attention. Your forearm cramps, half-remembered weight of Roman ballistae manifests in muscles as you shake out the strain. Bindweed retaliates overnight, fresh shoots already greening the trough's southeast corner. Strong as Celtic chainmail this plant, you rip them barehanded, sap burning hangnail wounds, until soil surrenders pale roots resembling skeletal fingers. Stagnant puddles shrink, exposing cracked earth below fissures, spreading like prophecies of drought. Rain won't bless these fields for weeks, not after last night's star-scorched sky. The ivy knew. Nature always knows thirst before mortals taste it on cracked lips. You step back, studying the cleared channel, as sunlight finally kisses water's surface. Minnow shadows dart, reclaiming territory, while tadpoles wiggle free of sponge-ale nearby. Relief lasts 3 breaths until a rumble echoes through oak planks, the groan of rotten wood bowing to unseen pressures. The east plank splits, oak surrendering to Rootrot's patient campaign, as brown water surges through like a liberated army. Birds scream warnings from alder branches, their cries wasted against the deluge, devouring your foot trenches. Mud clouds bloom, swallowing pebbles and beetle carapaces alike, each silt spiral mirroring leaf patterns in druid divination bowls. You don't move, boots rooted as water swallows ankle bones, the sickle limp at your side. Frog spawn drifts past, clinging to torn root hairs, as ivy's defeated infantry. A laugh escapes, harsh as crow calls, when you spot tadpoles wriggling free downstream. They'll thrive in the marsh, far from Pictish buckets and crumbling infrastructure. Maybe outlive us all, a shadow falls, the herbwife's silhouette framed by sicklebush thickets, her snort audible across 10 paces. She tosses bundled horsetail reeds at your feet, their abrasive edges famed for scrubbing Roman baths, and you dive to salvage them before wash away. No words needed. Horsetail scourers might yet salvage these ruined planks, if rot hasn't chewed too deep. The old woman vanishes, sparing judgment, as wind toys with her gray plate. Mud stiffens on your trousers, cracking like clay tablets as you kneel by the trough's shattered edge. Wetted by rainwater, the sickle shaves wood shavings, each curl coiling like adder children at your feet. Work resumes, solaced only by water's renewed song. Summer drought looms, yet this moment's leak feels like the land itself, weeping, grateful to bleed freely again through ivy-strangled veins. Your breath frosts the air, each exhale a wraith smoke stolen by wind howling off the moors. The boundary wall rises ahead, its lichen-crusted stones leaning like crooked teeth, their shadow swallowing the last daylight. Rowans guard this edge, their branches clawing skyward with berries bright as blood drops, each tree planted when the first Pict hammered this soil into fortress land. Historians still argue whether Roman surveyors taught northern clans stonewall stacking, might explain why your ancestors built straighter barricades than huts. Crab apples weigh heavy in your pouch, their sour perfume battling peat smoke, clinging to woolens. Wind whips your nape, a wolf bite chill, as you approach a depression in the wall's mossy flank. Bark flakes off the eldest rowan, frost already sketching silver veins across its scar lines, exposing sigils your sister carved to mock death 5 winters back. You kneel, kneecaps grinding grit, ashamed how fast weeds conquered her cairn. Lichen fills each chiseled rune, nature erasing vows of protection, faster than Latin erased Celtic river names. A fringe theory claims strayed souls cling to fermented crab apples, their rotting sweetness anchoring ghosts where bones can't. You arrange 3 fruits by the roots, assessant flesh splitting under thumbs, tartness stinging hangnails earned clearing thistles yesterday. Brought your favorites, whispered toward roots tunneling deeper than sister graves. Even let the wasps nibble them first. Ice glazes each offering sugar-crusted lies, because she'd have stolen yours as a child, juice dripping off her grin like stolen honey. Stone grinds behind you, a boot scrape turned weapon harsh in twilight. You freeze, sweat icing along your spine, knowing Dalriadan raiders stalk these hills for winter captives, but only wind answers, thieving words you'd prepared, carting them south toward Rome's skeletal roads. Pebbles shift near the wall's western curve, 3 distinct clicks, like fingernails drumming slate. Frost heaves, badger cubs, pulse throttles your throat, paranoia sharper than any sickle, until a shadow detaches from the rowan's trunk. Translucent, moon pale, with fingers tracing wolf tracks in rime-glazed moss. Sister's ghost wears that torn peat-brown tunic, the one she died in bloodstains now silvered by starlight. Her braid unravels, strands fraying like rotten flax, as she crouches to inspect your crab apples. Frost patterns flare brighter where her hand passes, her fingertips carving fresh sigils in ice. Wardings no living soul remembers how to etch. The wind stills, oppressive as tomb-air, letting you hear her raspy hum. Sheep-folding tunes, they sang hauling fleeces, melodies thinning like smoke, until silence hangs knife-edged. You shift, ready to speak, but soil booms under invisible footsteps where she paces the border. Moss ignites, vibrant jade where her shadow brushes stone. Winter-choked grasses straighten, fed by phantom warmth, their blades glistening with false dew. You count 36 rejuvenated plants before realizing an invisible line bisects the meadow. Vigor thrives only on the wall's northern side, her domain, while southern scrubland remains brittle with ice. Show off, you mutter, though pride swells seeing her power bloom. Even living, she'd battle frost to save early sprouts, bare fists pounding plow-frozen dirt until blistered. She halts, head tilting, spectral gaze piercing your chest cavity. Ghost speech shivers your skull, not words, but sensations. Cold river pebbles the snap of frozen linen, eagle down against chapped lips. You grit teeth, translating spirit whispers, until meaning erupts like fever sweat. They come. The warning shreds, replaced by images, torch flames reflected in Dalriadan axes, shadows massing in oak groves west of the burn. Your farmstead lies naked to them, its wattle walls crumbling after autumn storms, spear tips aimed at grain stores you've hidden too well. How many? Your whisper hoarse, her form flickers, berries darkening to arterial black as she draws symbols in the air. 8 torch ovals, 20 blade lines, 4 hound shapes pulling ahead. Raiders enough to slaughter every man, every barred door yields to fire's persuasion. You fumble the bone whistle strung round your neck, its pitch tuned to summon neighboring steadings. The trill pierces night thinner than owl cries, echo snatched by wind. No human ear would catch it, but her grim nod confirms the alert sailed northward. She dissolves, wind scouring her outline into fog threads, as the first proper snowflakes plummet earthward. Ice glitters on crab apples, their fermented stink buried under fresh cold, though tomorrow's patrols might sniff the betrayal brewing. 3 crunching footsteps retreat behind wall stones, real ones, boots crushing frozen bracken. You brace, dagger sliding from belt sheath, but recognize the limping rhythm. Grandsire's cane thwacks oak root as he emerges, his milky eye reflecting blizzard light. Talking to shadows again, gruff voice frayed by 80 winters, save chatter for breath, start carrying stones. He drops an armful of mortar rock, each fist-sized chunk, quarried from Roman border ruins, and hobbles toward the wall's weakest bulge. His breath rasps worse than yours, each wheeze frosting his beard, but mutters about Dalriadan's scum-boiling coastal villages last moon. Trowel scrapes frozen dirt, his shaky hand patching gaps she'd marked. You join him, palming rough-hewn rocks, pressing them into oozing mortar paste made of crushed shells and summer reeds. Your sister left breaches on purpose, grandsire growls, haunches bent like storm-racked pines, so messengers could pass without scraping knees on heathen prayers. Mortar bleeds between stones, gray-green slush freezing within heartbeats, its stink of river clams overpowering. You pause, recalling white runes etched beneath her childhood hand, carving jokes about Roman ghosts nipping trespassers' ankles. Snow thickens, burying berry offerings, as you too rebuild the barrier she once weakened. Each stone settles colder than a corpse's palm. This wall, both shield and tombstone, tomorrow's war will test. Wind screams her name or yours as darkness swallows the last rowan's glow. Dawn bleeds gold through cloud gaps, your eyes, grit stung from mortar mixing and watch shifts. The hearth's glow shrinks to ember memory, ash smeared with your tally marks, beside Plod's hoofprints, where he shuffled toward his morning haul. 17 stones reset, 14 mortar patches, 9 stolen winks against the wall, before grandsire barked you awake. Reed oil lamps gutter out, their fumes replaced by frost-thaw musk, rising off patchwork defenses. Mainstream scholars claim Pictish dawn rites included blood sprinkling, but your kin prefer practical math in soot smudges. Snow crunches under Plod's feet, his yoke creaking as he drags a log to prop the east gate. Last night's raider warning never materialized, just a badger nosing your crab apples, sparrows brawling over frozen rowan berries. Your dagger stays sheathed, though knuckles prickle remembering Dalriadan attack patterns. Historians still argue whether Pictish farmsteads kept standing armies or relied on farmer militias. Tonight's answer leans militia, unless Plod's grumpy snorts count as cavalry support. Grandsire hacks phlegm into the fire pit, his wheeze harmonizing with Plod's discontented groans. Quit scowling at sunrise, stir the damn oats. His ladle clangs bronze, a wedding cauldron plundered from Roman ruins decades back. You need fatigue from your neck, skin sticky, with dried river clam mortar, recalling that odd theory claiming Picts used mussel shells to confound Roman metal detectors. Honeycomb oozes onto gruel gold rivulets swirling through gray sludge, Plod stomping, impatient for his share. You lick breakfast off a split knuckle salt and barley and wood smoke, the sting grounding you better than any prayer. Across the yard, wolf's guard oath, ram guards the sheep, frost glazing his horns like sugared iron. Historians adore debating if Picts trained rams for sentry duty, but oath just hates strangers' shoe smells. Ash tallies blur when sleet sweeps in east wind, scouring your mending triumphs into gray smears. Grand's voice rasps from the byre, milk pails weeping again. Because rust never sleeps with humidity this thick, you grab a wad of moss, last night's nettle poultice still clinging green, and jam it into the pail's leaky seam. Noon sun gutters behind storm layers your tally, now illegible under waterlogged ashes. Grandsire inspects the wall's fresh bulwarks, prodding stones, with his cane grunting approval at the Roman-angled corners. True northern craftsmanship, if you ignore the horsehair twine anchoring the top rocks. Plod nose shoves your back, demanding an oat refill, his breath reeking of fermented crab apples. Rainwater brims the patched trough, ivy vanquished, frog spawn pancaked under ice. You count 72 reed bundles left for winter repairs. 68 if rats breach the store shed tonight. Hunger gnaws, sweetened by the knowledge your sisters warding sigils hide between mortar lines, waiting to blind raiders with phantom light. Dusk comes early, sleet hardening into ice jewels on the fence line. Hearth flames devour new logs, plod's hoofprints fossilized in frozen mud as reed oil whispers awake in the rehung lamps. You finger-etch tomorrow's task list beside yesterday's blurred marks, the farmstead's pulse scribed in ash and effort. It seems held firm against another creeping night. Daylight fades softly, your weary body sinking into familiar earth. Embers sigh in the hearth, no flames left to dance, only warmth at your back like a worn cloak. Plod's breath steams the stable air, steady as sunrise over fields you've patched 6 dozen times. Count the days, repairs not in stones, but in breaths drawn deeper, shoulders loosening like unfurled rope. 17 gaps sealed tight, 14 weak spots armored, 9 star-scattered moments where stillness won. No threats stir beyond the fence, just badgers nosing through berry thickets, sparrows tucking heads under wings, grandsire's ladle rests, bronze dimmed by firelight, its stolen Roman shine softened with decades of oats and patience. Cold honey still clings to your knuckle, salt-sweet proof of work completed. Oath ram's horns glimmer frost-kissed, but watchful, guarding sleep, you needn't borrow tomorrow. Your sister's hidden marks glow faint beneath fresh mortar, threading safety through every wall crack. No scholars debate their power here, just your pulse slowing, knowing phantom light guards what's yours. 72 reed bundles wait, dry and whispering, enough to mend whatever winter hurls next. Plod sighs in his stall, hoofprints frozen mid-step, a loyal shape breathing night into the shadows. Ash tallies blur, not from sleet now, but eyelids heavy as river stones. Rust can wait, leaks hold fast, moss poultice clinging where it's needed. Dawn's numerals remain unwritten, no alarms etched, only peace pooling in the space between tasks. Hearth heat paints the ceiling, reed light tracing slow circles on frost-furred thresholds. Drift now, weight sinking into straw and wool, every seam of this life holding firm. Your last thought melts like honey in warm milk, voices fading to soft animal sounds. Walls stand, watchful ram rests, Plod's ear twitches at moonlit moths. Darkness cradles the farmstead, stitched together by your hands, its heartbeat steady under starlight. Let go fence lines blurred, the world reduced to breath and ember glow. One slow blink, another wood smoke, weaving through your hair, the earth humming low. Sleep comes not as surrender, but a second pair of hands keeping watch while you mend.